Welcome in on this Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to take you now to some breaking news that we've been having our eye on for some time now, for a few minutes now, but we want to take you there. This is a live look. This is in Greensboro. So what's happening right now? I want to read it, the article from our content partners, WFMY News 2 in Greensboro. It reads, all southbound lanes of US 421 at Pleasant Garden Road are closed due to a, quote, law enforcement investigation. That's according to the Greensboro Police Department. Now, WFMY News 2 crews, our content partners there in Greensboro, are at the scene, and according to them, they can see a white car with what appears to be bullet holes in the side of it. Now, several agencies are at the scene. That includes Highway Patrol, Guilford County Sheriff's Office, and Greensboro Police Department. Let's take you now to that reporter there on scene who is covering this for us. Let's take a listen in so we can get more on this investigation.
That's right. We're on the side of U.S. Highway 421, this Joseph M. Hunt Jr. Expressway. So I'm going to tell you what we've been seeing. We've been here for about an hour, and there are multiple law enforcement agencies here on this expressway. So if you take a look, we have seen multiple state troopers. We also saw the Guilford County Sheriff's Office on the scene, as well as the Department of Transportation Incident Management. And there are multiple unmarked law enforcement vehicles with their lights on, but we don't know. We can't attribute those to a specific agency at this time. And we have seen a white vehicle that has 3 bullet holes in it across the road here, and it does appear to be a Ford. So I want to show you a picture that eyewitnesses gave us, and I'm going to walk you through what you're seeing here. So you can see 2 law enforcement officers, one on the left and one on the right, with that white vehicle in the middle. They appear to have their guns drawn, pointing them at that white vehicle. Now, for some context here, we spoke to eyewitnesses who gave us those pictures. Now, nothing that they said has been confirmed by law enforcement. I want to preface that, and we are working to learn more information from Highway Patrol. But they told me that they saw this white car take a right turn off of Pleasant Garden Road and what appeared to be a high-speed chase and turn right onto U.S. Highway 421. They then say that the car was being followed by law enforcement, and they heard and saw the car slam on its brakes and end up kind of on the shoulder of the highway across the street. That's when they say that they heard multiple officers saying, drop your weapon or drop the gun. Then they heard multiple multiple officers saying that that's when they snapped that picture and saw the officers with their guns drawn around that vehicle. Eventually, they say they heard multiple gunshots, and that's when multiple law enforcement agencies shortly after that, as well as emergency services, arrive on scene. So that's what we talked to eyewitnesses about. As I said, that has not been confirmed. As of right now, we are working to get more information confirmed by Highway Patrol. They are on scene here, so we're going to talk to them shortly after this and see what we can find out. But that's what the scene's looking like right now. We will keep you posted. We're going to come back to you as we learn more information.
All right, so that was Christina Dillon from our content partners there at WFNY News 2 in Greensboro. Again, this is a live look at the scene. Again, it looks like that investigation is centered around this white car you see in the center of your screen. Highway Patrol is there. Guilford County Sheriff's Office is there. Also, Greensboro Police is there. This is in the Pleasant Garden area, Pleasant Garden Road, if you're familiar, US 421. And we will continue to keep our eye on this story and any developments as it comes into our newsroom. All right, so let's switch gears now. Oh, if you woke up this morning, you probably were like, where was the heat? Where was some of that warmth, that warmer temperatures from a week ago? Well, it looks like we're kind of back to normal where we should be this time of year. Let's check in with meteorologist Majestic Storm on our full forecast.
Today is going to be a beautiful sunny day and the warmest day out of our 7-day forecast. So really, we're not doing too bad, even though we're definitely not as warm as last week. But remember, that was not normal. We were just getting spoiled. 48 degrees right now in the Queen City. It is gorgeous. We'll hold on to sunny skies all throughout the day today, and temperatures will continue to climb back into the upper 50s and low 60s. Now, we will have cloudy skies returning tomorrow. So if you have plans for your Wednesday, it's still going to be a rather warmer winter day, but not nearly as much sunshine as to what we're seeing outside now. And then Thursday, we're really going to start preparing you for a big drop in those temperatures. Yesterday, it was pretty, but we only topped off at 50 degrees. Remember, we should be at 52. Today, we're forecasting about 59, so a great day to get outside and enjoy it. Sunny skies this morning. It was gorgeous. We'll hold on to nice clear skies throughout the afternoon, and then tonight, a few clouds start to push through. In the mountains today, talk about a nice day. 53 degrees, very comfortable, whether you're up there in the mountains or you're just bopping around Blowing Rock. Once we're looking over there towards the foothills, upper 50s, low 60s, 60-degree temperatures there in Morganton. 59 in Lincolnton and Charlotte, 58 degrees today in Statesville. And then once we head to the south of us, a mix of upper 50s and low 60s. So bottom line, most of us, we get to experience above average temperatures today. And then again, we'll see some clouds roll through overnight. That'll help our overnight lows from getting too chilly. This morning we bottomed off at 30 degrees, and then tomorrow morning as you're heading out the door, whether you're heading off to work or getting those kids up and ready for the school day, I think it'll be a little bit more bearable. Waking up into the 40s, mid 40s by 9 o'clock. And then again, remember tomorrow, still holding on to very mild conditions overall. But really the focus now is that we're preparing you for Thursday. That is going to be a chilly day with temperatures not even touching 40 degrees. And that's before you factor in the wind. It's going to be because of a dry cold front, so it'll be moving in from the northwest, and it really starts to ramp up those winds. It kind of opens up the door to allow a lot of that cooler northerly wind and air to settle in. So factor in the cool air and those gusty winds, and then Thursday morning it is going to feel very cold, like we're into the teens and low 20s in and around the greater Charlotte metro area. But look at the mountains, -3 in Boone, 0 up towards Jefferson. That's going to be a big focus. Once we're heading into Friday, then we're focusing on bitter cold early morning temperatures before things start to settle out as we're heading towards the weekend. Rain chances over the next 7 days really aren't looking too great. If anything, with that cold front, remember it's mainly a dry cold front. We could get a little bit of mountain snowfall, but really the impacts, they do seem quite minimal. Let's break down that Jerry Hunt Super Center 7-day forecast. Again, 59 degrees today, perfect conditions. Enjoy the day, sunny skies, and remember, above average highs. Lows tonight not getting nearly as cold as the last 2 mornings with low 40s, and then temperatures tomorrow still looking pretty great. Thursday and Friday we're going to wrap up the work week with plenty of sunshine, not even reaching 40 degrees though there on Thursday. This weekend 55 degrees on Saturday, and then a big cool down again as we're heading into the end of our weekend.
All right, so that's a look at your full forecast. Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Serderman. We have an exciting new interview for you here on Live Impact News. So the Shield Museum of Natural History, which is located just west of Charlotte in Gastonia, is the home of some cool stuff. So dinosaur bones, a live farm, even a planetary. Producer James Brierton introduces us to two representatives from the museum who visited our studio this morning with a, guess this, Carlene, a tortoise. Have you met a tortoise in real life?
You know, I don't know if I have. A tortoise? I don't know. I've done I've been to the aquarium, the South Carolina aquarium.
Yeah. I was trying to think.
So I think they have loggerhead turtles there that I've seen.
But not like a tortoise.
And I've never and I've been to the Georgia aquarium where they have, but I've never been up close to one.
Yeah, no, me neither. I was trying to think. I feel like I've seen one from a distance at some aquarium.
Same.
Yeah. So James got to meet one up close.
Cool.
That's pretty cool. So he was here with the folks there from the Shield Museum of Natural History. Let's take a listen in to that interview.
Our friends from the Shield Museum of Natural History in Gastonia, North Carolina are here. Tiffany and Candace, so good to see you both. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having us out.
And you guys have a friend. I'm going to go to our wide shot. If you hold him up, introduce our friend here.
This is Cortez the desert tortoise. He's an animal ambassador at the Shield.
Why, hello, sir.
Yes.
So you guys tell us what is coming up over there at the Shield Museum and what does it have to do with tortoises?
Yeah, so we've got a community STEM night coming up. It's thanks to Duke Energy. And you can come over to the museum for free. And you get to visit the museum, you get to see a planetarium show, and you get to meet animals like Cortez. So we'll have an animal program, and we'll have an awesome educator there who will be able to tell you all the cool facts facts about animals that you guys are just having in your heads. So lots of fun, and we'll also be doing some science experiments. Do you want to see this little experiment here?
Yeah, let's see it.
All right, so I have a little jar of beads in here, and if we explore Newton's first law of motion, it says an object at rest will stay at rest. Ta-da! An object in motion will stay in motion until a force acts on it. And it's going and going and going and going. Ta-da!
And moving a little faster than Cortez.
Much faster than me in the morning too. No strings attached on that, Candace. So why? I know you said it's because of Newton's law, but like why does that keep falling out?
Yeah, so you were the force that started it, and all these like little beads are connected together. Think kind of like a roller coaster. So if you move the first car, well, all the other cars are going to move. So you've got inertia in play, gravity's pulling down. It's got momentum. So lots of science involved. But yeah, to make all that happen, so really cool.
That is quite cool. Candace and I have done your weatherproof event before, where Candace does all sorts of crazy weather experiments and really demonstrates quite well, as you can see here right now. So that's just like a little bit of a tidbit of what the museum has. Tiffany, I have another question about the tortoise, if I may.
Oh, yes, please.
If you are the official tortoise spokesperson, how old is Cortez? Do we know the answer?
So desert tortoises can get to be between 60 and 80 years of age. Cortez is a rescue animal that we have at the Shield. We're connected with a lot of different wildlife organizations, and they will contact us if they have an animal that's deemed unreleasable. And a lot of times we have the ability to give them a good home and care for what are sometimes special needs in exchange for the animals being kind of an educational ambassador. And so as kids get to know Cortez specifically, they might learn to care about desert tortoises and turtles and reptiles in general. And so it just makes for a great opportunity for animals to be an ambassador for their species and teach people why it's important to care for them. So at this community STEM night coming up, you'll get the chance to meet a few different of our animal ambassadors, some hands-on science like Candace demonstrated, planetarium shows, and then of course all of the museum exhibits that you'll get to explore after hours, which is kind of special.
Ooh,
Yes.
The museum after dark,
Yes.
night at the museum style. That's super exciting. So you mentioned the STEM night. Candace, what are other things that are coming up at the museum?
Oh, so exciting, because the planetarium is like my favorite part of the museum.
You're holding a dinosaur. I didn't know she had a prop for this question.
We'll get to him in a second. But the planetarium's my favorite part. And so we are going to be doing our laser shows. So if you've been to one, come on back. These are like band themed. So if you like Queen, Metallica, Rush, The Grateful Dead,
Wow.
Taylor Swift, yes.
Wait, one of those things is not like the other.
Please come out and you can watch it. We'll have the volume cranked up and you get to see these cool laser lights. It's a really just a fun experience, to do with the family. So look on our website, shieldmuseum.org. There's select nights for certain bands. And you'll want to get your tickets soon, because I have seen in years past, lots of these shows will sell out. So make sure you grab your ticket. And then you were wondering about the dinosaur in my hand. So I'm going to give you guys a little insight today. If you guys remember, we had a T-Rex in our lobby a couple years ago, and everybody's like, where did the T-Rex go? Well, guess what? The T-Rex is back in the house, but he's not on display yet. It is coming up with our paleo project that is set to launch a little later in the year, looking more towards fall. But T-Rex is back and he's bringing friends. And so you want to talk about dinosaurs? Well, February 28th, we have our fossil fair. And that is where we have paleontologists. We do gemstone mining. We're finding fossils that you guys can actually take home with you. There is a special planetarium show that talks about the flaws of Jurassic Park, like the OG movie. So Fossil Fair is like the best event of the year, and it's definitely one you want to come to. So be on the lookout for that one on our website, shieldmuseum.org.
And get that sneak peek of the Elizabeth Williams Robinson Hall of Dinosaurs. That's going to be our next best thing.
So, Tiffany, let me ask you, for anyone who is not yet familiar, where is the museum located and how do people get there?
Oh, yeah. So we're out in Gastonia, North Carolina, which is just about 20 minutes from uptown Charlotte in the northwest. And easy drive, take the freeway right out to us. And we have free parking, and it's just a great day for the family. If you don't live nearby, make sure you get some lunch in downtown Gastonia and just spend the day with us. You have re-entry privileges, so if you have littles, they can come out in the afternoon. You can go grab some lunch and then come back and do the nature trail or a planetarium show. So it's really just fun for all ages. If you don't have littles, you get a chance to read the exhibit panels, which is amazing sometimes.
I will give you some insight. I'm going to give you another insight tip to the museum. Afternoons are the best time to come because it seems like, all the kids are still kind of in school. So if you're wanting that kind of quiet moment to look at the museum and really read text panels, afternoon is great. Also, we didn't mention it, but the farm is so cool. There's a black and white goat named Frankie. If you see him, make sure you say hello because he's so social. He's great.
He's the reason I work at the Shield. I thought to
Because of
myself,
Frankie?
I could see goats every day if I worked here, and sure enough, I can.
Animals, dinosaurs, and more. Lions, tigers, and bears. What more could you ask for there and Cortez? Thank you so much for taking time out. And before we go, Candace, I do need to ask you, as one of our resident space experts, for your excitement level on Artemis 2, set to launch the first human mission on a lunar expedition since Apollo. And this is happening in just weeks, we think.
I know! Artemis is Apollo's twin, so we're sending people back to the moon. Now, Artemis 2, they're not technically boots on the ground, but they're going around the moon. This is so cool. And Christina Cook is a native of North Carolina, so I am so excited to see that little tiny piece of North Carolina go. Oh, I'm so excited for Artemis 2.
She was talking about this in the car on the way here.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
My small talk isn't about
No weather. Well, sometimes weather.
Well, there's just a little bit of a sneak peek of the amount of knowledge you can learn at the Shield Museum and level of excitement that you can obtain from going out there. So, ladies, thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks for having us.
All right, a really cool interview right there. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Now to a story that we've been following since last month and continue to follow today. The suspect in a Ballantine crash that killed 2 people and seriously injured a child last month was back in court this morning. Jason Anthony Scott, 18 years old, faces 2 felony charges of involuntary manslaughter and felony assault with a deadly weapon, inflicting serious injuries in connection with the crash at the intersection of Audrey Kell Road and Red Rust Lane back on December 27th. Our Jesse Pierre was in court this morning and is following up on this story. Jesse, what can you tell us?
Well, I'm not far from the intersection where that deadly crash happened. And, 3 family members were in that car, a 12-year-old Mana Manley, who survived the crash. Her mom, Lauren Manley, and Gloria Manley, her grandmother, those 2 died in that deadly, devastating crash that happened 2 days after Christmas. There's actually a growing memorial at that intersection with flowers. Now, Jason Scott, you mentioned all of his charges, 2 counts of manslaughter, assault, deadly weapon as well. He faced a judge in his first appearance today. He was actually in the hospital following the crash and was arrested yesterday, to my understanding. And he was given a $300,000 bond, in this case as we move forward with the case. Now, witnesses, according to the state, witnesses say that there's a 45 mile per hour driving limit here on this roadway, but witnesses saw Scott driving upwards to 100 miles per hour when he collided with that vehicle with that family. Again, he was taken to the hospitals when medic responded to the scene. The 2 older women were pronounced dead on the scene. The 12-year-old Mana was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. So this is just a very devastating incident. I've been kind of combing through his record, and it seems like there are other speeding or traffic-related incidents on his record as well. I briefly spoke to a family friend, and again, they say that this is just devastating. And she did send me a statement from the family. She says that, "I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for their interest and concern for us and our family. My sister is stable and improving, but faces a long road to recovery. Beyond that, medical bills and ordinary expenses are anticipated to accumulate quickly. With many in the community expressing a desire to help, a family friend have put together a fundraiser so that we can focus on helping my sister heal and family grieve." Now, if you do go to WCNC.com, you will find that GoFundMe page there, again, to help Mana, who is, again, in the hospital. We do know that she is out of the ICU, but again, there's a long road to recovery for her. And the next court date for Scott is in February 3rd. Nick?
All right, Jesse, thank you again. As you mentioned, a heartbreaking incident there. You can catch Jesse at 4 and 5 this evening with more on this story. Jesse, thank you for your time. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. We want to head now to Minnesota. Happening live, the organization CARE, which is a grassroots civil rights organization dedicated to empowering American Muslims and marginalized communities throughout Minnesota, holding this press conference. And this press conference comes on the heels of the Trump administration ending temporary protected status for Somali immigrants. That's according to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. She confirmed that in a post today on X. Let's take a listen in.
This is something that ICE cannot change on a whim. You have a legal status. You have a right to be heard and defend your ability to stay in this country, but they will possibly detain you before you get a chance to make that case. So prepare for that detention, have a plan for your children, have a plan for your finances, have a plan for contacting people, memorize phone numbers so that if they take your phone, you still have a way to contact an immigration attorney and your family. Don't sign anything. Insist that you want a hearing, insist that you want to talk to an attorney. You do have rights if you are someone who is here as a refugee or asylum seeker, so exercise those rights. And, sorry. Also a reminder, as Jelani mentioned, most Somali Americans are in fact citizens or legal permanent residents. Legal permanent residents do need to have their green cards on them, but U.S. citizens do not need to carry citizenship papers. That's a decision to make on what is the best way to defend yourself in these circumstances, but you should not be detained as a citizen. You do not need to show any kind of documentation if you are a citizen. If you are detained, the National Lawyers Guild is providing representation to U.S. citizens who end up in immigration detention. And CARE, or the Advocates for Human Rights, is a potential connection to be able to get that representation. We were also pleased to see Hennepin County Attorney's Office and the Attorney General bringing a lawsuit to defend against these abuses. As you can see from our advice around what is happening, each individual person can get legal services, but the only thing that can stop this endless innovation in how much they can bend and tear apart our immigration laws is a lawsuit trying to stop the entire surge into Minnesota. So we really want to see that succeed. We support that. And if you are someone who is a supporter of the Somali community, the larger immigrant community, you can do observations, as Jelani mentioned. This is also a moment where Congress is writing appropriations bills for the coming year, and you can call your representatives and demand that there is no money appropriated for these aggressive, abusive enforcement actions. So definitely let our elected representatives know that we do not support any of what is happening. Thank you.
I'll take some questions.
Hi,
Yes.
my name is Ong. I'm a reporter with the New York Times. I know you mentioned in the past 24 to 48 hours, it's like a targeting towards people who are legally here, legal residents. Like, what are you hearing from the community, you know, in terms of their reactions, you know, like fears or concerns, and what's different compared to, you know, back in December when, you know, ICE or federal agents first came to town?
Yeah, so thank you for that. Obviously, our community have been dealing with this. This is, you know, the immigration part is one aspect. We have seen defamation against our businesses and our community. We have seen through social media now, and specifically Elon Musk and others, target our community with absolute just lies. And we're dealing with that. But on top of that, we did not expect refugees who have been vetted, who have come through the process that they say come through. They say come here legally. They say follow the law. The people who have been following the law are now being picked up. This is an absolute attack on the entire existence of our Constitution and really the rule of law. And so yesterday and the last few days, we have seen those upticks. And so unfortunately, our community, many of them are operating with the previous guidelines that we provided, most of our organizations, which was these individuals we did not see to be high risk because of their pathway to citizenship and the process they were in. And today we are unfortunately taking that guidelines and putting them in the same guidelines as the individuals who are undocumented or individuals who are at much more high risk. And so people are waking up to this because they didn't expect this. And again, these are not individuals who are somehow, they're going to their house and knocking on their door. Some of them, they did that, but they're also broad daylight, just randomly identifying somebody who's black, brown, and going directly to them and grabbing them. And obviously many of those people were not thinking that they would come for me. Hey, I'm lawfully here, doesn't matter. They're being directed. So this change, I think, is part of I think it is part of their initiative to see that their entire idea is collapsing. The country is turning, and many people who believed that ICE was doing something right are waking up to the murder of Renee Good. They're asking hard questions, and this administration is now seeing the cracks, and they need to escalate, and that's what we believe is taking place. So this opportunity today is just to remind our community that this is what's happening, and Somali Americans are feeling the sense that it doesn't matter what they do. They're being targeted. Their businesses, their organizations, individuals, people are feeling a sense of an attack. But in Minnesota, one thing I want to just share about Renee Good, we've heard now since her murder, many Somali Americans have interacted with her. She was someone people could see and know. She visited many of the Somali businesses and others, and so the community feels a sense of incredible gratitude to the sacrifice that she had to do to stand up for Somali Americans. And I think it's a sign today that across this country, as thousands and thousands and millions of people have been protesting all over America, that this administration is now literally coming for U.S. residents, people who have legal status. And I think it's a dark day in America for people who claim that ICE is going after these horrible individuals to wake up to grabbing a mother off the street with her children at her home. And she came and abide by all the rules that exist today. This is the America that we're living today.
You mentioned 500 to 700 that are affected by TPS. Is that Minnesota specifically or across the nation?
They're across the nation. I think we have a lion's share here, but obviously there is other states as well. So it's hard to predict this number. People move in and out of the TPS program. It's not the greatest program. It's a program that's been difficult to just continue to stay. The systems have been delayed at times, and so. But I know a lot of individuals who are on those programs are also been seeking out other immigration pathways, and we're hopeful that many of those people can then backtrack to those pathways.
Can you go into what the other options would be for someone who's part of the TPS program who's affected by this?
Many of them could be applying for other, but maybe if you want to just add, like, there are other, through marriage, through children, there's just a lot of other ways people can request that.
Yeah, TPS doesn't offer a pathway to permanent residency or citizenship. So if you are on TPS, you have to use one of the established pathways. For someone already in the United States, that could be through familial relationships, a marriage, or if you have someone in your family who naturalizes, certain relatives can then also naturalize. Asylum, so if you were targeted in your home country, then you can make a claim for asylum, and that's one way. Victims of crime, victims of trafficking, those are all pathways to permanent residency, and so a TPS holder could follow any one of those that apply to them.
And we know many of TPS holders especially are living in mixed status families. So they may have children, they may have spouses that are U.S. citizens. And that is the reality because of the TPS program, Somali being so long. Those individuals that have been in that program very long are oftentimes having grown children or children who are U.S. citizens. So we're hopeful that many of those individuals can process and exercise those options.
Do you have an official number of how many Somalis or Somali Americans that live in Minnesota?
That's a good question. So the census data, that 2020 census data that came out had 90,000. That's 2020. It's been 6 years now. And so we are estimating that there's another potentially 50,000 that was not necessarily, these are numbers that we're projecting. These are not the census numbers. So I would say a good number is between that 100,000 to about maybe 150,000 is a range. Yes.
Do you have more data in terms, how many Somali Americans or Somali who have legal status have been arrested in the last 24 to 48 hours? Because you mentioned there's
Yeah. So I forgot two quick announcements in that. Number one, we are asking individuals who have had any ICE interactions to contact CARE and ACLU. We are looking at discriminatory patterns as ICE is engaging and randomly stopping Somali Americans who are citizens. So we're asking for the public, if anyone has been stopped, to do that. We do not have a hard number, and partially we also do not trust the DHS and ICE because they are not actually documenting anything. They're literally playing free and loose. And so therefore we're asking for the public to self-register. Hey, I've been stopped by ICE. It happened here in that location. This helps us as a community to hold this administration and this agency accountable to the behaviors that they're engaging. So if you have been stopped, even if you're not Somali, it doesn't matter. If you've been stopped by ICE, we know that they have stopped Native Americans. They have done everything under the sun. So we're asking for anyone to contact the ACLU and CARE or any other legal organization to channel you to where that data is being collected right now. But we believe we don't have the lion's share because people are frozen and frustrated, and they once they have the interaction and they're gone, they're just kind of hoping to just not interact with them again. The second thing is we are making today a declaration, a call out to the nation attorneys, especially immigration attorneys across the country. We have now 3,000 ICE agents here. Our immigration attorneys are doing the best we can in our community, but we're surging and asking for free support, pro bono, or other support from immigration attorneys across the country who could be able to assist us in this moment just to deal with the sheer number of attack that's happening. So if you are, please contact with CARE or any other organization. Just let us know if you're available to help. We'll hopefully create some sort of a process as well to kind of support that pathway. But we are asking for immigration attorneys across the country to come and support the work that is happening here in Minnesota.
What are people in the community telling your organization about how they're feeling if they've been here a long time and they've attempted some of these other pathways and they're seeing a very real possibility of being deported back to Somalia after X number of years here? What are those people telling you?
I think the biggest concern for us is the duration of a detention. Because we know that anyone who applies for these processes, there has to be a legal process to exercise those claims and those processes. And so individuals are going to go through the courts, and the courts have to eventually come to conclusion that that person has to be deported. Many of the people who are being picked up are not subject to a deportation. Many of these individuals, the legal system has to work. The question is, are they going to do it in detention? Can they get them to come out? So there are fears of that. But I want to also, to answer to your question, yesterday I was in St. Cloud. I met the community after a major assault on Somali American community and businesses. What I saw and what I've seen is our community is resilient. I saw a lot of young people who were energetic. They were excited that they could come up together as a community. They were proud of each other. They're proud that they were able to stand up. And they weren't running away from the moment. We had about 200 people that showed up at the city hall. And they're willing to speak, even though St. Cloud has this weird system where only 5 people can speak at a city council meeting. What kind of a ridiculous thing is that? But anyways, that's St. Cloud for you. But anyways, there was 200 people there. And these people were not fazed. They're not afraid. They were taking care of their neighbors. They stood up. These are U.S. citizens. And they asked the hard questions. And so our community is being galvanized in this moment to stand up for ourselves. And we have the love and support of this great state. Our neighbors are standing up for us, like Renee Good and others. And we're seeing thousands of people flood the streets on Saturday. And so this moment is a moment for us as a state, and we're going to respond. But I think the idea, the narrative, and the lies that this administration is doing is falling apart. It is collapsing in the face of this moment. And the truth will come out that what they're doing is absolutely wrong. And we need state leaders, as they did yesterday, to continue to defend the state against this authoritarian regime. Yes. Okay. صح. This will be in Somali. So kow waxaan rabnaa dadweynaha Soomaalida inaan laba arrimood u sheegno. Kow muddadii hadda 3 maalmood ugu dambeysay ICE waxay bedeshay habka ay u raadinaysay dadka gaar ahaan sharcigooda immigrationka u dhameystirsanay. waxay hadda u soo jeesatay 3 maalmood ugu dambeysay dad ku imaatay qaxooti oo sharciga qaxootiga haysta oo waliba I-94 ka haysta dadkaasoo aan markii hore u maleynaynay oo ayna ahayd xitaa dad hore saa loo qabtay in la sii daayo hadda dadkii bay guranayaan. marka hadda waxaan rabnaa dadweynaha inaan la wadaagno qofkii ku imaatay qaxooti ee wali green card gacanta ku haysan waa suurtagal inay qabtaan. hadday qabtaanna way kaxeynayaan wayna haynayaan. taasi maaha way mustaafirinayaan. mustaafiriintu waxay ka imanaysaa maxkamad qof sharciga haystana si loo mustaafiri way adag tahay. laakiin qofka inay xidhaan way samayn karaan wayna sameeyeen wayna wadaan. dadkaas waxaan rabnaa inay u dhaqmaan sidii dadkii kale aan lahayn ma aragtay iyagu sharci.
All right, so that is a live look there at a live press conference there in Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota, nonprofit CARE speaking out on the Trump administration. We want to come back here at home and we want to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to head now to Albany, New York, where in just moments, actually, we're going to pivot. We want to actually head to Detroit. This is a live look at Detroit. That is President Donald Trump. He is arriving there, set to speak at the Detroit Economic Club. He is planning right now. So he's actually at the Ford plant right now. And so, but he will be speaking in front of the Detroit Economic Club, speaking about the economy there. But again, he is taking a tour of the Ford plant there in Detroit. The iconic Ford plant. If you know anything about Detroit, that is one of the big places there. Actually, my father used to work at the Ford plant back in the late 70s, early 80s. So just a fun fact about Nick. But anyway, that is President Donald Trump. And once he speaks, we'll make sure to get you there back to Detroit. Let's go back now. Can we take this? Okay. This is a live look. This is, as I mentioned before, Albany, New York. The state of the state from the governor set to happen, set to hear from her in just moments, but the ceremony is underway. Let's take a listen to it.
and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated as the Guard retires the colors.
Our family,
our businesses,
our communities,
our future is her fight.
I'm Fran Drescher, and I'm a New Yorker.
I'm a New Yorker.
I'm a New Yorker.
We are New Yorkers.
2025 was a tough year.
Washington made things harder.
Costs went up.
Uncertainty went up.
And families were left paying the price.
It was a tough year.
New Yorkers were tougher.
While Washington played games, our governor got to work.
She built more housing, schools, businesses,
good-paying union jobs,
and a better Empire State for all who call it home.
When families were stretched thin, she cut middle-class taxes.
When costs were crushing parents, she invested billions in childcare
and tripled the child tax credit.
When classrooms were overwhelmed and distractions were everywhere,
we led the nation in banning smartphones in our classrooms, creating a distraction-free environment where our kids can thrive.
When communities were worried about safety, she invested in law enforcement and drove shootings down.
When illegal guns flooded our neighborhoods, Governor Hochul took them off the street.
Delivered free school meals for every student.
Adults can go back to school tuition-free.
Farmers and small businesses got support to keep going.
And while Washington stalled,
New York kept building housing, transit, and jobs.
In central New York, Governor Hochul secured the largest private investment.
So that is a look at the state of the state. We want to head back now to Detroit, where it looks like President Trump is speaking. Let's take a listen in to what he's saying.
Going to help. I don't even think about USMCA. I mean, you know, I want to see Canada and Mexico do well, but the problem is we don't need their product. You know, we don't need cars made in Canada. We don't need cars made in Mexico. We want to make them here. And that's what's happening. Everybody's moving here. From Canada, they're coming here. From Mexico, from Japan, from Germany, from all over the world, they're coming here. They're opening up their plants. Bill is lucky because he's had a lot here, but when he doesn't have it here, he's moving here. They're doing big expansions for it. But they're all doing great. The car industry is exciting, and to be honest with you, Bill, every industry is exciting.
Yeah.
Just like this.
Well, we need to rebuild our industrial base, and that's been a priority of yours.
And we're adding a combustion vehicle, a combustion truck, affordable one in Tennessee to the president's note. That's what these policies are doing for Ford. We're going to actually expand one of our existing plants and make a different kind of truck there.
The tariffs?
Yeah. Yes, and the EPA, the relief of the
tariffs and the relief I gave them from the most ridiculous standards. We had put 3 computers on a car in order to save about this much gasoline from a glass. It was crazy, but I'm very proud of them. And Ford has really been a leader. They've done a great job, but all of them. General Motors is doing really well. Stellantis is doing really well. We're really happy about it. I just wanted to build their product in the USA.
You don't think you're going to renegotiate USMCA?
Well, I can. It expires very shortly, and we could have it or not. It wouldn't matter to me. I think they want it. I don't really care about it.
So it might go away. So you're talking about getting rid of USMCA.
No real advantage to us. It's irrelevant to me. Canada would love it. Canada wants it. They need it. Because we don't need Canada product. That's the thing. You know, I want to be a nice person, but we don't need. I want to build the cars here, not in Canada. We used to build cars in Canada. Now, the Canada cars, the Canadians are moving here to build cars. Same thing with Mexico. Same thing with Japan. Japan's paid us billions and billions of dollars for the privilege of making cars here and selling cars.
Mr. President, what about the raw materials? Auto manufacturing that you
The quality is unbelievable. So we're at a Ford 150 plant, and I don't know that much about cars, but I know how to get people working. And all I can tell you is that people talk so much about the 150, and it has been for a long time. They make a great product, a quality product, better than anybody else can make in Europe or in any other location. Look, the Ford 150 has done well for a long time because they make a great product.
Have you ever allowed Chinese autos into the U.S.?
Well, as you know, we have a tariff on Chinese autos, and in Europe, China's taking over the auto business, I would say is a nice statement, but that's the way it is. And here, what is it, 100%? We have 100% tariff on any car coming in from China. So that makes them able to do very nicely against China.
Mr. President, what about the...
Pretty good, right? Who would have thought that was going to happen, right?
What about the raw
Everybody said that the cars are dead in the United States. If you go back 4 years ago into the middle of the Biden administration, everybody was closing up their plants. Now we have more plants being built in our country than at any time in history. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And it's the election, November 5th, and it's other things, but it's also, I think, maybe the biggest part, the election, because I'm the tariff person. And everybody now admits that I was right on tariffs. And I hope that we win the Supreme Court case.
Mr. President, what about the raw materials coming in from countries like Canada? How do these companies deal with the fact that those...
Well, we get it, but we have a lot of our own raw materials. And, you know, the word raw and rare are a little bit of a misnomer. They're not very rare. You have a lot of places that want to sell us material, and we get it from a lot of different countries, and we have a lot of rare earth and raw materials.
Senator Tom Tillis says that the subpoena, the grand jury subpoena to the Federal Reserve Chairman was a little excessive. What do you think about that?
Well, that's why Tom's not going to be a senator any longer, I guess, right?
But what do you think?
But I like Tom Tillis. He's a nice guy. But look, he's not going to be a senator any longer because of views like that. We have a bad Fed chairman. He's bad in a lot of different ways, but he's bad because his interest rates were too high. And today we had a great inflation report, and today we had a really great growth report. So we have great growth and low inflation, and we're doing very well.
Do you think there's going to be a rate cut, though, with the inflation?
I don't know. With this guy, you don't know. He's got some problems. But what he also did, he's renovating a small building. It's the most expensive construction job in history, and it's only a renovation. I could have done that job for $25 million. They're spending billions and billions of dollars. He either doesn't know what he's doing, or it's worse than that. And you know what I mean by what. So hopefully he'll be out of there soon.
Does the president impact your timing on naming a Fed chair?
No.
When do you expect to do that now?
I don't know, sometime in the next few weeks.
Mr. President, of the big three, Ford makes most of its products right here in the United States. 80%.
That's a big advantage for Ford.
Is that the reason that you came here?
No, I came here because we're friends, three of us, because I have helped the company a lot. I mean, as an example, trucks. I put a 25% tariff on trucks coming into the United States, and their truck business went through the roof.
You said to Iran this morning that help is on the way for protesters. What did you mean by that? What kind of help?
You're going to have to figure that one out. I'm sorry.
How many people have been killed in Iran?
Nobody's been able to give me an accurate number. I have heard numbers from everything's a lot. One is a lot. But I've heard numbers much lower, and I've heard numbers much higher. We'll be knowing. We're probably going to find out over the next 24 hours. I think it's a lot.
In your first
it's too many, whatever.
Oil average around $53 a barrel. Is that the target for you for this term?
I'd love to see that, yeah. I mean, we're at 68. We're at 58 now. I'd like to see 53. Thank you very much.
All right, so that was President Donald Trump speaking there at the Ford plant in Detroit, Michigan. Set to speak a little later, but we want to go now to a development story that we're following out of Greensboro. That is a live look at that investigation, police investigation. So as far as we know, Guilford County Sheriff's Office, Highway Patrol, and Greensboro Police all on scene regarding, quote, a law enforcement investigation. It looks like they are focused on this white car there, and it's FMY, WFMY, our content partners in Greensboro has reported they noticed bullet holes in that car. Let's take you now there on the scene. We have a reporter there tracking this investigation. Let's take a listen in.
That's right. We're on the side of U.S. Highway 421, this Joseph M. Hunt Jr. Expressway. So I'm going to tell you what we've been seeing. We've been here for about an hour, and there are multiple law enforcement agencies here on this expressway. So if you take a look, we have seen multiple state troopers. We also saw the Guilford County Sheriff's Office on the scene, as well as the Department of Transportation Incident Management. And there are multiple unmarked law enforcement vehicles with their lights on, but we don't know. We can't attribute those to a specific agency. And we have seen a white vehicle that has 3 bullet holes in it across the road here, and it does appear to be a Ford. So I want to show you a picture that eyewitnesses gave us, and I'm going to walk you through what you're seeing here. So you can see 2 law enforcement officers, one on the left and one on the right, with that white vehicle in the middle. They appear to have their guns drawn, pointing them at that white vehicle. Now, for some context here, we spoke to eyewitnesses who gave us those pictures. Now, nothing that they said has been confirmed by law enforcement. I want to preface that, and we are working to learn more information from Highway Patrol. But they told me that they saw this white car take a right turn off of Pleasant Garden Road and what appeared to be a high-speed chase and turn right onto U.S. Highway 421. They then say that the car was being followed by law enforcement, and they heard and saw the car slam on its brakes and end up kind of on the shoulder of the highway across the street. That's when they say that they heard multiple officers saying, "Drop your weapon" or "Drop the gun." Then they heard multiple officers saying that. That's when they snapped that picture and saw the officers with their guns drawn around that vehicle. Eventually, they say they heard multiple gunshots, and that's when multiple law enforcement agencies shortly after that, as well as emergency services, arrive on scene. So that's what we talked to eyewitnesses about. As I said, that has not been confirmed. As of right now, we are working to get more information confirmed by Highway Patrol. They are on scene here, so we're going to talk to them shortly after this and see what we can find out. But that's what the scene's looking like right now. We will keep you posted. We're going to come back to you as we learn more information.
All right, that's Christina Dillon there from WFMY News 2 in Greensboro. And this is a live look at that scene. So I want to read what's on WFMY News's website, and it says eyewitnesses described hearing troopers give someone commands to drop a gun before hearing several shots. So again, crews there are on the scene, and they say they see that car with bullet holes in it, and it's been the center of that investigation that's happening. That is on Pleasant Garden Road, US 421, if you're familiar with that area. But we will continue to check in on this story and continue to provide you updates here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Let's come back here at home and let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Again, we are continuing to follow some breaking news in the Greensboro area. US 421, there's an investigation. This is a live look there. Witnesses telling our content partners at WFNY News 2 that they heard commands for someone to drop a gun before hearing shots fired. So there's a crew on the scene. Again, this is southbound lanes of US 421 at Pleasant Garden Road. They're enclosed because of that law enforcement investigation. I apologize for that helicopter shot turning like that on you. As we track that, we want to go to Albany, New York. We're happening right now. New York Governor Kathy Hochul delivering the State of the State 2026. Let's take a listen in.
Spread up to $1,000 per child under the age of 4. And let me say this. We have the lowest middle-class tax rates in 70 years. Let me repeat that, the lowest in 70 years. And we lifted a major burden that was on businesses by paying off billions of dollars in unemployment insurance debt, while increasing the benefits by 70%. Now, this is a critical safety net for anyone who finds themselves out of work. Well, what else can we look forward to in 2026? World-renowned companies are reinvigorating communities that were overlooked for too long. Look what's coming. Micron in Onondaga County, shovels in the ground. Now, not 3 years from now, 3 days from now, shovels are going in the ground. Micron is happening. Fairlife in Monroe County, Chobani in Oneida County. These wins are the results of fights we took on, investments we made, and a future we chose together. And when I say together, that means my great partners in state government, but also means the local leaders who work around the clock, keeping our towns and our cities running. Let's hear from a few of them.
We are New York.
We are New York.
We are New York.
We are New York.
Across the state, local leaders are building opportunity.
Street by street, neighborhood by neighborhood.
Turning visions into results that
people can see and feel.
But none of us can do this alone.
And progress doesn't happen without
leadership from the top.
Leaders like Governor Kathy Hochul.
Governor Kathy Hochul.
Since she took office in 2021,
Governor Hochul has delivered really unprecedented investments in our crime analysis centers.
Investing in law enforcement.
She's helped small cities like Peekskill flourish.
A $230 million hospital.
$3.2 million to support 50 units of affordable housing.
$10 million more for economic development projects creating jobs in Western New York.
The single largest economic development investment in our county's history.
$400 million in state investments to revitalize our downtown.
She's been focused on making New York more affordable and is a trusted partner in our shared fight for universal childcare.
We're committed to working with Governor Hochul to make affordable, high-quality childcare.
Take it from someone who's leading the city of Poughkeepsie,
who works in the village of Hempstead,
North Tonawanda,
Newburgh, Buffalo,
the city of Yonkers.
every single day. When New Yorkers work together,
We can accomplish anything.
Governor Hochul gets that.
she's delivered for us so that we can deliver for you.
She has our back.
Because she knows
We are New York.
We are New York.
We are New York. We are New York.
Yes. Yes, we are New York. And as your governor, I'm so proud to lead the fight to protect our communities, build an economy that works for all. And today, I'm here to tell you how we're going to continue that fight. And it starts and ends with making life more affordable. Whether we're talking about childcare, groceries, utility bills, one thing is clear. Parents, veterans, the disabled, seniors, they all need relief. And that's why last year, working with this legislature, we put upwards of $5,000 back in the pockets of hard-working New Yorkers. Well, that's the good news. But now, Washington Republicans are waging an all-out war on the middle class, driving up costs, leaving states to pick up the pieces. So this year, while Washington takes a machete to our safety net, I'm doubling down on the fight for a more affordable New York, starting with childcare. For parents, working parents, no cost is more overwhelming. And I know how urgent this is because I lived it. When Bill and I were just starting out, childcare was one of our greatest obstacles. I was fresh out of law school, all excited about my career, dream job working on Capitol Hill for Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, a true legend. When our babies arrived, and I'm happy they came, but I had to give up that career. No, they're great kids. They're now giving me other babies, which is great. But we simply couldn't find available, affordable childcare like so many other people then and now. It was heartbreaking. It was tough then, but for too many families today, it is almost impossible. Get this. In New York City, childcare costs between $26,000 and $40,000 a year. For that price, your toddler should be fluent in 3 languages and doing your taxes. One year ago, I stood on this very stage and placed our state on the path to universal child care. Today, I stand before you with a clear roadmap to show you how we'll get there, building on over $8 billion in child care investments we have made since 2022. And this plan will ultimately deliver universal child care for every single family in New York, full stop. Full stop. Now, the work has already begun. 5 days ago, I stood with Mayor Mondami. We stood together. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Come on. Republicans have kids, too. You can stand. Like I said, 5 days ago, I stood with Mayor Mamdani to announce that the state will fully fund the first 2 years of his Universal Care program while also helping New York City realize the full promise of Universal 3K. We made that commitment and we'll keep it and beyond. Statewide, we're taking a different but equally ambitious approach. We're promising universal pre-K for every single 4-year-old by 2028. And this year, we'll pilot community-wide child care to provide year-round, full-day, affordable care for newborns to 3-year-olds. And we'll build on that.
All right, so that is New York Governor Kathy Hochul there giving a state of the state in there in Albany, New York. We want to take you live now to East Meck High School. That is Governor Josh Stein. He just walked into the room. Full transparency, we were going to take a break, but it looks like Governor Stein is there. Looks like they're about ready to get started there. So Governor Stein, again, at East Meck High School today to hear directly from teachers about North Carolina's new effort to reduce distraction and increase focus in the classroom. And this visit comes weeks after school districts across the state met a January 1st deadline to comply with the new law restricting cell phone and social media use during the school day. So again, that is Governor Stein with school leaders, teachers there at East Meck High School. Stein, if you remember, signed the measure into law last summer after his task force on student safety and wellness being identified classroom distractions as a top concern. Let's take a listen in. Stein is speaking right now.
Introduce yourself and identify where you teach. The topic of the day has to do with cell phone policies. And I've already been chastised for taking my phone out during instructional hours. Principal Dry over there just gave me a tour along with some of the student ambassadors. What an impressive campus East Meck is. The students are really thriving. They're engaged in their studies. It was a real delight to get an opportunity to go to an auto mechanics class, two crafts classes, And I just got to taste the wares of the culinary arts students, and it's very impressive. When earlier this year, actually last year, now that we're in 2026, I was honored to sign a piece of legislation that prohibited cell phones during the school day in North Carolina's high schools and middle schools because of the distraction that they present to children. And what I hope that we do today is flesh out how that policy has been rolled out, how it's working. I created a task force on student safety and well-being. The first task I assigned to them was developing a model policy on on cell phone-free schools to help school systems as they dealt with this new regulation. The regulation took effect 2 weeks ago, January 1st. Many schools adopted it at the beginning of the school year, which I think you all did, is that correct? In anticipation of this new policy. So let's have a conversation about what the policy has been like. And I also just want to thank these teachers. The teachers today in North Carolina are actually earning less on a real basis this year than they did last year. We're among the lowest paid teachers in the entire country here in North Carolina. We're 50th in the country in school funding effort by the state. 50th, dead last, absolutely unacceptable. Teachers are the #1 factor of in-school success for students. It is time that we pay teachers to show the value that we put on you all. So that's an aside, but I never miss an opportunity to thank and lift up our teachers. So why don't we go around the room, the table, say your name, your subject, and then we'll dive into the subject matter of school phones.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ashley Barbie, and I teach Math 1 and Math 3, and I'm actually midway through my 30th year of teaching in North Carolina, and it's still very delightful.
Hi, my name is Deanna Miller, and I teach AP U.S. Government and Politics and IB History SL. This is somewhere around the 8th year teaching.
Hi, my name is Frida Ibarra. This is my 10th year in education. This is my first year as a high school counselor. I was a former teacher, and specifically here at East Meck, I was a Spanish for native speakers teacher. And we actually have a curriculum where students get to look at research on how phones, social media impacts them for the Spanish for native speakers curriculum.
Hi, I'm Kaylin Forney. I teach all Math 1 classes, and this is my 2nd year teaching.
Hi, my name is Eric Wajalewski. I teach all the levels of physics that we have here. This is 25 years of teaching for me.
Hi, I'm Becky Lentz. I teach multilingual learners, specifically English 3, and this is my 14th year teaching all 14 here at East Meck.
Lovely, thank you. Put your head back last year before the policy took effect. What was the impact of cell phones on a student's daily life, on your daily lives as teachers? It had been your life for a while, so you were probably used to it at that point.
Yeah, I would say, again, teaching for 25 years now, that was probably one of the biggest behavioral issues before the policy came out that we had was there was always, no matter what you had in your classroom as a rule, that I think you're always battling it, whether it was, and I taught some time in California, I taught some time in New York, and now here in North Carolina, so it's, I would say, universal. The issues that I saw everywhere was always a battle, and it depended on the administration you had of how supportive they were in you enforcing in that rule. So it was not a whole lot of consistency, and every year it felt like I was trying to reinvent a way to gain that, make it work better.
It's swimming upstream in terms of implementation. Yes.
Just to add to what he said, because it wasn't consistent, it was hard within your own classroom to try to set that bar. Students would always push back. Why do I have to do it this way in your classroom when I don't have to do it this way down the hall? And so it became just another thing to have as a tug of war for between teachers and students in classrooms.
Creating conflict, yes.
Thank you. I was just going to add to that after 28 years of experience, I taught the summer of 24 at CMS Alternative School for the summer, and I saw firsthand how beautiful it was for students not to have cell phones because they, could not have their cell phone with them during the day. It was lovely. And now I feel like that's more what our classrooms look like. Another thing I wanted to comment on is that before the policy, they may not have them out, but yet they may ask to go to the restroom and stay gone an extensive amount of time. So even though they were not having them out in the classroom, it still was very much interrupting instruction. But it is much more now, like with the no phones and the backing of the policy, it is drastically different.
A little, not off topic, but in addition, in my class when I taught, I saw the lack of socialization because they had their phones, especially right before the bell rings, or we have, an odd day where we're kind of having a celebration, or we're looking at something that is not instructional specific, and taking those phones, not taking, but allowing the students to put them away, allowed for them to socialize. So at the end of the year, I usually got comments from students saying, well, now I have my best friend, thank you. Because not only was I asking them to put their phones up, but also was making them switch seats. And I think they don't realize at the time how important it is to interact with those around them.
The lack of consistency also creates conflict because if I do it one way, Barbie does another, then they get, irritated at us as like, why don't you guys do it the same? But those conflicts also have a negative impact upon our relationships with students, and those are really important just for how we move through things day to day, but also their learning overall throughout the year with us.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what everyone has already said, that was basically my main talking point. I started collecting phones from students 3 or 4 years ago when I realized it was an issue before this policy came out. And now it's easier that everyone does it. And instead of me being the bad guy, I get to make you the bad guy that you make me do this.
Have you been talking to my children? All right, that's how it was before. The policy is in place here, has been for a term already. How has this year been different than previous years? Anyone want to take first stab at that?
Yeah, I think just what I was kind of getting at just now that it is a universal policy and everyone has to follow it, we don't have those issues of why do I have to put my phone away in Miss Lindsay's class when I don't have to do it in my other class? Like, it makes it easier.
Less conflict with the student versus the teacher. Yes. More standardization.
I think there's a correlation there with critical thinking as well. In physics, we do a lot of challenging concepts and making kids think real critically about the world around them. And I think the natural tendency when someone gets stuck with a concept is, especially now when you have information available at all times in your hand, is just to go look up the answer and look up the solution. And now with AI, there's so much that they can get from that, and it can actually, the struggle of critical thinking is the important part. It's not the actual information that they have to learn, the facts or my class maybe the equations. It's how do you process that when.
All right, so that is a live look and a live discussion there at East Meck High School. Governor Stein is there. We want to get to an update now from the SBI, this investigation right here that we've been tracking this entire afternoon. So this is, mind you, this is US 421 South in Greensboro. So the SBI putting this statement out saying, the NCSBI, State Bureau of Investigation, is now investigating an officer-involved shooting on US 421 near Pleasant Garden Road in Guilford County. The incident occurred around 10 a.m. The incident involves a citizen and a North Carolina trooper. The North Carolina State Highway Patrol requested full assistance with the investigation. SBI agents are on the scene, collecting evidence and gathering interviews. Additional information will be released as warranted. Again, as you got there, the SBI releasing this statement, calling this an officer-involved shooting involving what they are calling a citizen, a person, and a North Carolina state trooper. And they are on scene investigating. We'll continue to update you as we learn more details on this story, but we want to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We are at the top of the hour, 2 o'clock. Thank you for hanging with us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We want to head now to Detroit, Michigan, where President Donald Trump, who just hit the stage just moments ago, speaking at the Detroit Economic Club at the Motor City Casino. Let's take a listen in.
James and Tom Barrett, they're great people, every one of them. And as many of you remember, I came here at the height of the 2024 campaign to lay out my plan to bring jobs and factories and wealth racing back to the United States and coming back to the great state of Michigan. And just a few weeks later, the people of this state and the voters all across the country endorsed that vision in a landslide victory. We won everything. We won all 7 swing states. We won the Electoral College 312 to 226. We won the popular vote by millions and millions of, oh, it's so nice to win the popular vote. I won the popular vote all 3 times too, but we're not going to get into that. But the first time they said I didn't win the popular vote, but I won the Electoral College. So they always said, while he didn't win, this is the way I got introduced every time. While he didn't win the popular vote, he won the Electoral College, you know. So this is the way I was introduced for 4 years. And guess what? We said, I'm going back, we're going to win and we won the popular vote by a lot, so they can't say that crap anymore. And the thing that was most impressive, we won 86% of all counties in America, 2,700 to 525. Think of that, 2,700 to 525. And that's why when you look at the maps on Republican, Democrat, with red being Republican, as most of you know by now, I think, every once in a while you see one where they have it reversed. I said, why would we do that? Well, we think it looks better. I said, look, red is Republican. Let's not try and change the voters' minds on things. Just do it that way. And the map was virtually all red. That was about the counties. That was the 2,700 to 505, 550, I think is the exact number. Most importantly, we won a historic mandate to make America great again. And that's what we're doing. We're making America great again like never before. And now, after less than 12 months in office, this is the easiest speech to make. I have great people, and all I'm doing is spewing off what the hell we've done. Even Venezuela wasn't too bad, was it, huh? But you have people, Democrats, they say, I don't know if we should have done Venezuela, I don't know. Anybody that says that hates our country, okay? That was as flawless an attack as there has ever been. And they asked us to help them. They have 50 million barrels of oil. They said, take it. It's $5 billion. And we did. We're working with the Venezuelan people and representatives, and it's amazing. But that was an amazing situation. But we did al-Baghdadi, flawless. We did Soleimani, flawless. We did the Iran nuclear attack where we wiped out their nuclear capacity, which would have been very bad. You wouldn't have peace in the Middle East, flawless. We did them all flawless. I want to keep it going that way, too. I like flawless. Think about Jimmy Carter, the great Jimmy Carter, with the helicopters crashing, the hostages all over the place. Remember that one? Think about Sleepy Joe Biden with Afghanistan. What a disaster. The most embarrassing day in the history of our country, in my opinion. Real dope. Now, after less than 12 months in office, I'm back in Michigan to report to you on the strongest and fastest economic turnaround in our country's history. It's really been historic. There's never been, we're not 12 months, we're through 11 months. We've got $18 trillion being invested in our country. The most of any country ever was 3. We're at 18. There's never been anything like this. You are so lucky I allow you into this room to even be with me. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. The fake news will say Donald Trump thinks he's hot stuff. Right now I'm feeling pretty good, though, I will say. Oh, you're so lucky to be here. Under our administration, growth is exploding, productivity is soaring, investment is booming, incomes are rising, inflation is defeated, America is respected again like never before, and other than that, we're not doing that well. Now think of all those things I just said. Every single inflation down, growth at an all-time high, stock market every day, 48 days in a row, 48 days during the course of 11 months, we hit a new high on the stock market, all of them. 1 year ago, we were a dead country. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. And that was said to me by many leaders. By almost every metric, we have quickly gone from the worst numbers on record to the best and strongest numbers, the most dynamic numbers, and an economy that is far ahead of even my optimistic. I had a very optimistic schedule, I thought. I didn't think it was, but people said it was very optimistic. Turns out to be very pessimistic by compared to what we've done. But we'll go down as the greatest in history, greatest first year in history nobody's ever had, just based on the numbers, based only on the numbers, not based on me, based only on the numbers, because, you know, you get these guys like the governor of California likes to say how well he's doing. California's doing horrendously, but he says how well. We base it on numbers. There's never been numbers like this. Through 4 long years before I took office, crooked Joe Biden and his allies in Congress inflicted the economic nightmare known as stagflation. How many times have you heard the word? We hit it with Joe. We hit everything. What a disaster. Meaning low growth and high inflation. How does that work? Not good. So you have lousy growth and high inflation. In fact, it's the lowest growth ever and the worst inflation in the history of our country. That is really tantamount to not having a good 4 years, right? In other words, Sleepy Joe and the people that ran the auto pen were a complete and total disaster for our nation. They were a disaster for our nation. Had they won the election less than 1 year ago, we would have been, as I've often said, Venezuela on steroids. Now I'm Venezuela's biggest fan. We're working with them, but they came down from a very high number to a disaster, a disaster. And we would have been Venezuela on steroids, and we're bringing Venezuela back, and we're going to be great for Venezuela, great for our country. We're taking in, as I said, millions and millions of barrels of oil, and now they're coming in initially on a daily basis, 50 million. And
values of over $5 billion. That's in one day. Just think of it, the biggest ships in the world can take 1 million barrels. The biggest ships in the world take 1 million. We have 50 million barrels. We need 50 of the biggest ships in the world just to get it out. We're bringing it in to be refined. It's an incredible feeling. It's great. Winning is a good thing. We're going to work with Venezuela. We'll make that country very strong again. We'll get oil prices down even further. We have it down at about a 6-year low, 7-year low, but we're going to get it down further. Joe Biden gave us a colossal stagflation catastrophe, but my administration's rapidly and very decisively ended that. We have quickly achieved the exact opposite of stagflation, almost no inflation and super high growth. So we have the highest growth we've ever had. Think of that. The highest growth we've ever had, and we've only been there 11 months. Think of what we can do for the rest of it. But do we have wood around here? I want to knock on a little wood. They have one little, everything's plastic nowadays. It's very tough. Now we have the greatest growth, and we have, inflation way, way down. But we inherited terrible growth, and we inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country. The fake news would say 49 years. So when I say the history, they give me a lot of time, but I believe it's the history. But let's say 49 years. Would you say 49 years is okay, right? It's pretty bad. What do you think, Mr. Senator, Mr. Future Senator? I'd say 49. What sounds worse, 49 years or history? I think 49 years almost sounds worse. Maybe I'll just use it and I won't argue with these people. As of this morning, core inflation for the past 3 months has been just 1.6%. The numbers were just announced just before I came on stage. And GDP is smashing expectations with the fastest growth for this country in many years. The fourth quarter is projected at 5.4%, and that's despite the Democrat shutdown where we lost at least 1.5 points. The Democrat shutdown, we would have had close to 7. Think of that, close to 7. They were projecting to, the fakers were projecting to. And if we keep deregulating and adding more capacity, like I saw today at Ford, and if we don't raise interest rates every time good news is mentioned. In the old days, I'm probably old. I used to be up at these lecterns and I'd say, I'm younger than pretty much everybody in the room. Now I say I'm older than pretty much everybody in the room. I like it the other way better, actually. But you're too young. But in the old days, when you had good numbers, interest rates would go down. When you had good numbers, the market would go through the roof. That's the way we're going to make it again. That's the old-fashioned way. That's the right way. Today, if you announce great numbers, they raise interest rates to try and kill it. So you can never really have the kind of rally you should have. What happens and what we want, we're going to have a lot of great months, a lot of great quarters. I want the market to go up. You announce unbelievable numbers and the market goes down because they know you're going to do everything possible. In the Fed, we have a real stiff in the Fed, but that's for another day. But they raise rates. So everyone says, oh, they announced great numbers. It's great, great, great. And the market goes down because they immediately raise rates. No. When the market goes up, they should lower rates. You want to see 20% and 25%? You want to see what we can do? We've got to go back to an old standard. When there's good news, the market should go up, not go down. Does that make sense to everybody? And that's the way it used to be for most of the time. That's the way you make a country great. But our growth potential is unlimited and could be much higher if we went back to sanity. We're not doing it anymore. We're talking about the head of the Fed, and I want somebody that when the market is doing great, interest rates can go down because our country becomes stronger. See, you view it differently. Our country becomes stronger, and therefore interest rates should go down, not up. They kill every rally. If it's, no matter who, if it's beyond me as president, it's no matter who's president. You have a good quarter, and they want to kill it because they're so petrified of inflation. And growth and inflation don't necessarily go hand in hand. You can have growth and very low inflation. In fact, oftentimes growth is good for low inflation. So we're going to work on that, Scott, right? I think we're going to work on that very hard. I mean it so strongly. It's sickening. We announce good numbers, and we see the stock market drops 300 points. I say, what the hell is going on? Do you agree with me? It should be just the opposite. All right, Scott agrees, so I'm very happy about this. That means if he didn't agree, I wouldn't do it. But we're already growing double, triple, and even quadruple the speed of almost every other major economy on earth. We're the #1 economy on earth, too. And the results are in, and the Trump economic boom is officially begun. And it's really begun almost from the beginning. It almost begun, if you look at it, really from November 5th. You know, on another metric, just before the election, it was almost impossible to get people to join the military. We had the worst enlistment in the history of our country, the worst. You couldn't get people for the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, Space Force, the Coast Guard. You couldn't get people. And since right after the election, but especially since after January 20th when we took office, we have now the strongest enlistment we've ever had in the history of our country. We've never enlisted people so quickly, so easily. And we enlist by merit now. You know, we won a Supreme Court case that said you hire by merit. You go to college now by merit. Everything's by merit. Our country became great because of merit. And we have done some job. But think of it, a year and a half ago, we had the worst enlistment in history, and now we have the best enlistment. Things like that don't happen. You might go from the bad enlistment to okay, but you don't go from the worst in history to the best in history. But that's what we've done, every one of them. And that includes police and firefighters. It was very hard to get police. It was very hard to get firefighters, and now everybody wants those jobs. In 4 years of Biden, they secured less than $1 trillion of new investment in the United States. So 4 years, less than $1 trillion. In less than 1 year, I have secured commitments for over $18 trillion from all over the world, the most ever for any country. Think of that, though. They did, and I'll tell you what, had she won, it would be a disaster because you would have had people leave. You would have not had $1 trillion. You would have had $5 trillion, $10 trillion leaving the country, and your welfare would have doubled. When you look at what's going on in Minnesota, is that a disgrace? Is that a disgrace? But we'll talk about that. Under Biden, we had the highest trade deficit ever recorded, losing more than $1 trillion every single year. How about that? It was killing Michigan, and everywhere else in our country was being absolutely destroyed. But in a matter of months, largely because of tariff income and the election result, we've slashed that gaping trade deficit by, in a short period of time, 62, it just came out, 62%. People are stunned. The fake news back there, look at those cameras rocking and rolling. No, the fake news back there is, they're very upset about it, actually. But they're stunned. They can't believe it. We cut our trade deficit.
And that is President Donald Trump speaking live there in Detroit at the Detroit Economic Club, talking about the economy. And speaking of the economy, here's a live look at the New York Stock Exchange, down about 400 points there. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Let's come back here at home. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to head now to Capitol Hill. This is Representative Omar from Minnesota. Unclear right now. We're working to figure out what they are talking about. This sort of popped up here. But that's Representative Omar along with some Democratic leaders. Let's take a listen in to what they're saying.
Those are the words of someone attempting to de-escalate, not someone posing a lethal threat. After the shots were fired, the agent is heard saying, "Fucking bitch." This did not happen in isolation. This was not an accident, and it was certainly not inevitable. This killing is the direct consequence of deliberate choices made by Donald Trump and his administration. Over the last few months, the president has repeatedly inflamed tensions, espoused hateful rhetoric, and intensified attacks on Minnesotans, especially the Somali community. ICE's increasingly violent actions have terrorized our state and culminated in this needless loss of life. This is what happens when you give people with guns impunity. Dangerous things take place. To be clear, demanding accountability is not radical. Calling for systematic reforms are not extreme. This is the bare minimum required to restore safety and justice back to our communities. The American people deserve answers and accountability. They deserve to live without fear of federal agents acting as judge, jury, and executioner in our streets. And so today, I am glad to announce that the Congressional Progressive Caucus has adopted an official position to hold ICE accountable. Our caucus members will oppose all funding for immigration enforcement in any appropriation bills until meaningful reforms are enacted to end militarized policing practices. We cannot and we should not continue to fund agencies that operate with impunity, that escalate violence, and that undermine the very freedoms this country claims to uphold. ICE has no place in terrorizing Minneapolis or any American community. Together, we will stand united to ensure we put a check on the pattern of violence and lawlessness from this administration. Next, I want to introduce our whip, Congressman Chuy Garcia.
Thank you. As the whip of the Progressive Caucus, I am pleased to announce that our caucus has voted to oppose any appropriation to ICE and Customs and Border Patrol unless specific reforms are met. We believe in dignity, in justice, and accountability. ICE has acted lawlessly and recklessly for decades. It's only now that we have videos and the evidence. This isn't a new development, but now the problem has been supercharged. Led by Republicans, Congress has signed off on tens of billions of dollars for the agency. And just last year, Republicans gave DHS $170 billion for border and interior enforcement in the big ugly bill, including $75 billion to ICE. Since then, ICE and other DHS agencies have doubled down on brutal, targeted enforcement programs. They've tear-gassed children. They've ripped families apart. They've disappeared and detained lawful permanent residents and U.S. citizens. They killed Silverio Villegas Gonzalez and shot Marimar Martinez 5 times in Chicago, in my district, within just a few days. And they killed Renee Nicole Good last week in Minneapolis. This is what happens when we give a bottomless pit of money to the Trump administration, which prefers debt and destruction to the health, safety, and well-being of our communities. I represent a community that's been one of the epicenters of terror, as Minneapolis is today, and brutally unleashed by ICE and CBP. A community that could use those $75 billion for health care, for housing and education. With $75 billion, we could make a meaningful difference in the lives of millions who are struggling with insurmountable costs of living. Programs to provide housing to families, child care for 6 million children nationwide, 2 years worth of Pell Grants for low-income students. So today, I'm proud to stand in strong support of the position that our caucus has elected to adopt, rejecting unaccountable funding to ICE and CBP. And I also encourage all members, Republican and Democrat, to join us in voting no against the weaponization and the militarization of the government against our communities. Vote no on government cover-ups and lies. No to giving more money to Kristi Noem and other DHS officials who spit in the face of congressional authority and public accountability. No to using taxpayers to fund terror, trauma, and debt in our communities. No más. Insto a todos los miembros republicanos y demócratas a que se unan a nuestra bancada para votar no en contra del uso de las Fuerzas Armadas y la militarización del gobierno contra nuestras comunidades. Vote no contra los encubrimientos y las mentiras del gobierno, no a darle más dinero a Kristi Noem y a los otros funcionarios del Departamento de Seguridad Nacional que desprecian la autoridad del Congreso y la rendición de cuentas ante el público. No al usar de dinero de las contribuyentes para financiar el terror, el trauma y la muerte en nuestras comunidades. Ya basta. Next, I would like to introduce the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Immigration of the Judiciary Committee, Pramila Jayapal.
Thank you so much, Representative Garcia, and thank you so much, Chair Omar, for your incredible leadership and courage in this moment, and to all of the members of the Progressive Caucus for taking a very strong, bold, and necessary position on appropriations. We cannot continue with business as usual as immigration agents tear gas peaceful protesters, ram down the doors of residents in Minnesota and across the country, as they round up U.S. citizens, as they strip our rights one by one. Last week, we all watched in horror as an ICE agent killed Renee Nicole Good in the streets of Minneapolis. She is not the first person to die at the hands of a rogue agency. And nothing we say or do can bring back Renee or any of these other individuals. But we can demand change in their memory. We have to urgently pass legislation to roll back the excessive funding for immigration enforcement that was in the Republicans' big bad betrayal bill. And we cannot support additional funding for the Department of Homeland Security without seriously meaningful and significant reforms to the way that federal authorities conduct activity in our cities, our communities, and our neighborhoods. No more masked agents. No more ramming down our neighbors' doors without a warrant. No more threatening and intimidating the American people from exercising their First Amendment rights. They must end detention abuses by immediately ceasing the use of private for-profit detention centers. 35 people have already died in ICE custody just since Donald Trump came in. As the ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee, I get a notice every time an official death, and that's just the official deaths, are recorded. And there are reports that people are being forced to sleep on the floor with cockroaches, fed food with maggots in it, and had medical care withheld. Anything for these private facilities to save a buck. And there must be independent investigations of lawlessness and violence by immigration agents and Border Patrol agents, and meaningful consequences for those who commit these acts of violence. Not a slap on the wrist, no impunity given to these officers to do whatever they want on our streets and just sent back out into the streets. This Friday, we will be conducting our 6th hearing of the Immigration Subcommittee Democrats in Minneapolis. St. Paul, with Representative Omar and the Minnesota delegation. And we will hear from people who have been directly impacted, and we will continue to demand accountability, because that is the thing that the American people want, and it is absolutely what we must do today. With that, let me introduce the incredible representative from the state of Illinois, Representative Delia Ramirez.
Thank you, Congresswoman. You know, as you're hearing my colleagues talk about what's happening in the streets, I really want to encourage you not to normalize this moment. You've heard a lot of what's happening over and over and over. And it's really easy for you to hear abduction, kidnapping, killing, beating, dying in detention. And if you hear it so much, at some point, perhaps, it may feel normal. None of this is normal. It's unconscionable. For the last year, Chicagoans and our neighbors across the country have been dragged, disappeared, beaten, abused, kidnapped, shot, murdered in front of their very own loved ones. And as Americans watch the violence and the indignity on their phones, on television, they've come to understand what so many of us already know, that the Department of Homeland Security is a threat to our collective safety. But I want to be clear. What is happening today in our communities, whether it's Minneapolis, Chicago, Oregon, North Carolina, LA, New York, New Orleans, and the list goes on, it's not an accident, nor is it new. You may be surprised by what I'm about to say, but DHS immigration agents, they're not rogue. Why? Because from its establishment, DHS and ICE has been empowered through a lack of oversight and too much latitude to violate our rights under the pretense of security and safety. Who is feeling secure and safe right now under the Department of Homeland Security? On January 7th in Minneapolis, Americans saw the danger of infusing unlimited resources into DHS's abuses of power. ICE shot U.S. citizen Renee Nicole Good in the face. But many of us have been talking about what's happening for a very long time. And we knew that unfortunately at some moment, we would be here today, heartbroken and devastated, watching the number of people dying under DHS. So now we've plainly seen what they do with unlimited resources and unchecked power. Funding ICE only fuels our own destruction. We cannot assure our security by sacrificing our humanity, our dignity, our liberty. So what can we do? You've heard from my colleagues already. How do we protect our Constitution? We have to use Congress, appropriations power, to hold DHS accountable. Yes, and that means we must oppose new investments and demand policy change and reforms. It means we're not voting on a DHS package without any reforms, significant reforms. But I want to go further. We have to also impeach Kristi Noem. I want to go further than that. We need to prosecute the criminals in masks. We need to cut and claw back ICE's funding as natural consequences for DHS's disregard for the rule of law and violations of our rights. We have to use every single tool, including the power of the purse, to end the campaign of terror, because we brought ICE into this world. And we have a responsibility to decide what we do with it after. Let me just say a few added words in Spanish. Lo más importante que tiene que escuchar nuestra gente es que el caucus congresional progresista, aquí con nosotros, ha decidido tomar una posición muy formal. Como no pueden imaginarse, el Departamento de Seguridad Nacional quiere más dinero para secuestrar a nuestra gente, para matar a nuestra gente en las calles, para meterlos en cárceles, mandarlos a El Salvador y a otras partes del mundo. el Congreso aquí, el caucus progresista congresional, ha decidido que no votaremos por ninguna legislación que tenga más dinero para ICE, para el Departamento de Seguridad Nacional, que incluye también CBP, si no vemos reformas con contabilidad que sea en verdad concreto. Es muy importante que en este momento usemos todo lo que tenemos en nuestro poder para hacerlos a ellos contable, y con este grupo aquí lo haremos. Muchas gracias. Con eso es mi gusto introducir. It is my pleasure to introduce to you. I'm Spanglishing it right now. I know the president will love that. The one, the only, our champion for immigrant rights in Florida, Maxwell Frost.
Thank you so much, Delia. Good afternoon. I'm Congressman Maxwell Alejandro Frost. I represent Central Florida in my town of Orlando here in Washington, D.C. Today I want to speak about the choices Congress faces in the upcoming appropriations bills, the responsibility that we have on funding decisions that we make. And I'm very proud of the Congressional Progressive Caucus for taking this principled stance, because the one thing that we can do that no one else in the communities that we represent can do is walk onto that House floor and cast the ballot and cast the vote. And what we vote for and what we vote against is a true reflection of not just our character, but also our priorities and what we believe needs to happen in this moment. And as we see these videos and these accounts, as we see ICE in our community terrorizing our people, kidnapping Americans, human trafficking people across the entire world, our position is simple. We will not fund that. We say no to funding for any DHS appropriations bill as long as our people will continue to be killed in detention facilities, on our streets, in our communities, as long as this law...
All right, so that is a live press conference from Washington, D.C., talking about DHS funding and accountability. Those are members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus holding that press conference, again, talking about the Department of Homeland Security and funding and accountability. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. So we are continuing to follow what the SBI is calling an officer-involved shooting along US 421 near Pleasant Garden Road in Guilford County. Let's take you now to Christina Dillon with our content partner there in Greensboro, WFNY News 2. Christina, what can you tell us?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I've been out here for a few hours, and law enforcement vehicles have been lining this street. So what we know is that the NCSBI is now in charge of the shooting, that they are calling an officer-involved shooting. They're leading the investigation. We do know, with confirmation from the SBI, that a trooper shot a woman, and they are giving us some reports on what may have happened, that there may have been a vehicle chase that ensued. We also heard the same thing from an eyewitness. So I can talk to you a little bit about what that eyewitness said. That has been confirmed. Some of it, like the shooting, has been confirmed by the SBI, but they said that they saw a white vehicle which has 3 bullet holes in it from where we can see our vantage point, that white vehicle turned right onto Highway 421, and it was taking a right off of Pleasant Garden Road. They said that it looked like they were in a high-speed chase with these law enforcement officers. Officers were trailing behind, and eventually that white car pulled off onto the shoulder, and they said that law enforcement officers did surround that car, say drop your weapon, drop your gun, and that eventually they heard shots fired. We did get a photo from that eyewitness that appeared to show 2 law enforcement officers with their guns drawn, facing that white vehicle. So the SBI has said there was a trooper-involved shooting. We now have confirmation of that, but still waiting for more details on if there was a chase, what happened. We know that this woman was taken away by emergency services. She's in a hospital. We do not have any update on what her condition may be, but we are continuing to follow this. Hear more from the SBI. They have been active on their social media with updates about this and said as more information comes out, they will be giving updates, but we will continue to follow this. We're here. We've seen some law enforcement agencies kind of pull off the scene. It looks like the car is actually being towed right now. The Guilford County or Greensboro Fire Department is on scene as well now too. So we're going to wait and see the trooper car and the unmarked police vehicle that were in that area next to the white car. They've already been driven away, but it does look like that white car is getting towed as we speak. In Greensboro, Christina Dillon, WFNY News 2.
Christina, thank you for that report. Again, Christina is there live in Greensboro, Guilford County. Christina, thank you. All right, so let's head back to Detroit. We showed you this earlier. We actually showed you as President Trump toured the Ford plant. Now he is continuing to speak at the Detroit Economic Club, speaking about the economy. Let's take a listen in.
Affordable Care Act. Nope. Did anybody ever think of that one before? It's true. It's the Unaffordable Care Act. Obamacare was a gift to make health insurance companies rich at the expense of the American people. In particular, the so-called enhanced premium tax credits were a corrupt payoff to the insurers, whose stock prices went up more than 1,000% after Obamacare was signed. I want the same money I want it to go directly. Very simple. I want the money, those big amounts of money paid for by the government, to go directly to the people, so they can buy the health care that's right for them. They can negotiate their own deal, health care savings account, but they'll buy their own health care, and everybody loves it. That's why later this week, I'll announce our health care affordability framework that will reduce premiums for millions of lower drug prices, delivering price transparency and demand honesty and accountability from insurance companies all over the country, all over the world, actually. Healthcare costs will come down very fast with my most favored nation executive order. We're doing most favored nation drug prices. When we would have drug prices stay the same, everybody thought it was great. They're going to be coming down thousands of percents. We're standing up to special interests and slashing prescription drug prices by 300, 400, 500, and even 600% and more. I mean, think of that. On that alone, we should win the midterms in a landslide. I'm doing favored nations. The country that pays the lowest price in the world is the price that we're going to pay. And we got that because of tariffs, because I said to the countries they wouldn't approve it. The drug companies were tough, but they were fine. But they said the countries will never do it because you have a pill that sells for $10, you have to sell it for 20 or 30, so you'd have to double or triple the price of their health care there for prescription drugs. Ours would come down from $130 to $20. Theirs would go from 10 to 20, the world being a bigger place. And it was unbelievable, but the countries wouldn't do it. So I called the countries. I said, if you don't do it, then I'm going to put a tariff on you. And the tariff's going to be 20 times more than the cost that you're having to pay for fair health care. And every one of them said, sir, we agree with you 100%. We would be honored to do it. It was really rather amazing. We could never do it. So think of that. You have most favored drug prices. Your drug prices are going to go down like from $100 to $10. Nobody can believe it. And we can't get the fake news to write about it. It's the biggest thing to happen in medicine. It's the biggest thing to happen in healthcare. And I cannot get the New York Times, I cannot get anybody to write about it. When we got it done and we announced it, it was on a page way in the back of the New York Times. Same with others. They don't want to talk about it. You know why? Because it's so good. It's the biggest thing to happen. Over the past 12 months, almost every promise I made to you right here in 2024 has been kept. I've kept all my promises and much more. I mean, I've given you much more than I gave you promises, and I produced much more than I said I was going to produce. I gave you the largest tax cuts in American history, cutting taxes across the board in the great, big, beautiful bill. And as I told you, I mean, who would have gotten you no tax on tips, as I said before? No tax, I said over and over again, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our seniors. Any senior should be voting for us because the Democrats won't do this. Doesn't work for them. And we also made interest on car loans fully tax deductible, so that when you go out and buy a car, if you have a mortgage or you get a loan on a car, you're allowed to deduct interest for the first time ever. That's never happened before. But only for cars that are stamped with the beautiful words "Made in the USA." In other words, we're only letting that take place if the car is made like in Detroit or in the USA. Our tax cuts also provided 100% bonus depreciation on all new equipment and capital investments, meaning that for any manufacturer looking to bring production back to America, you can write it all off, everything, not in 38 years, not in 44 years, in 1 year. You write the whole thing off in 1 year. That's the biggest thing there. I think that's the biggest thing. That's the big job producer. And I've cut an unprecedented number of burdensome regulations. We're number one in the history of our country in cutting regulations. I promised to cut 10 old regulations for every one new regulation. So if we put on a regulation, the only way I'll allow it to happen is if the secretary, like Scott Bessent, cuts 10 old regulations. But instead, last year we actually cut 129 regulations for every one that we put in. Think of that. So nobody's ever cut regulations like I have. I terminated the insane electric vehicle mandate and ended the war on internal combustion engines once and for all. Those engines were gone. And some people like them. And if they like them, great. And if they like electric, if they like any form of propulsion, any way you want to propel your car is okay, except for a couple of them, as I discussed. I permanently stopped Joe Biden's ridiculous CAFE standards. You know what the CAFE standards are? They're standards that make it impossible for you to build a car affordably. They make it impossible for a car to really work right. The CAFE standards sound so nice. The CAFE standards, it's environmental standards that are impossible to meet. And we're canceling the EPA's absurd tailpipe emission standard, one of the worst ever. And I revoked the California emissions waiver to stop San Francisco communists from regulating automobiles all over our nation, all over our world. Boy, I have done so much for the car industry. It's crazy. Nobody thought it was possible to do this. And that's why your industry, and not everybody's in the car industry. How many people are in the car industry in this room, in one way or another? That's a lot, relatively. That's not bad. Another urgent priority for bringing down the cost of living is to stop the colossal fraud that is bleeding American taxpayers absolutely dry. The fraud being committed by the Somali population in Minnesota. Have you heard of them? They're lovely people. Is monumental. And California, Illinois, New York, and others are just as bad. Our country has been losing over $500 billion to fraud every single year, but those days are over. We have the best group you've ever seen assembled going after fraud. In Minnesota, we're cracking down on the Somali scams, ending the brazen and shameless theft of taxpayer dollars. Well, it's going on in Maine, too, with Somalis. You know, and they don't take our ships anymore. You know why? We hit them with the same missile that we use to hit the drug dealers coming in with the boats. You know, we have drugs coming in by sea down 97%. You've seen that? 97%. And we're trying we're really trying hard to find out who the hell is the other 3%. But we have them down 97%. And we're going to start hitting them by land, too. The hard part is done. By sea, nobody's coming. It hasn't been great for the fishing industry, however. Those that have a fishing boat, they're having a hard time getting customers. But you can't have everything. Nobody wants to go on boats. Nobody wants to go like 25 miles an hour. When you see a boat with 5 engines on the back of it going 65 miles an hour, and it's loaded up with hundreds of bags that you see cellophane with white, typically it's not fishing. How about the couple of submarines we took down? We took out 2 submarines, and the Democrats say they were fishing. No, they were submarines. They were excellent. They build a very fast, it's a drug-carrying submarine. They have a lot of money. And we took them out, and the Democrats claimed that they were fishing. We shouldn't ruin people's beautiful fishing journey. It's unbelievable what we have to go through. It's really a shame, actually. We froze it all, children's payments to those states that we're talking about, and we will now require proof of attendance in order to receive federal funding for child care or any of that. How about all these child care places in Minnesota where there is no children? They go there, they get paid millions and millions of dollars. The biggest operation in all of Minnesota had no children. And we pay millions of dollars. They're scammers. They're scammers. They always will be. And we're getting them out, and we're not going to pay them. We're not going to pay Minnesota. Right, Scott? We're not paying Minnesota any more money for any of that crap. It's a big scam. It's a giant scam run by an incompetent, crooked governor. He's an incompetent, crooked guy. And also, we're freezing any and all welfare payments going to illegal immigrants that will start effective immediately. So when illegals come into California, Gavin Newsom, they come into California, and they send us bills for people coming in. We're not paying it. So we're working on that very strongly. Just don't pay it. As Nancy Reagan would say, just say no. You remember Nancy Reagan? Just say no to drugs. It's a little more difficult than that, I guess, right? But just say no. Additionally, from this moment forward, if you're on public assistance, like almost all Somalis are, did you see where 94% of them are on public assistance? You can't wire money out of the country back to your bank account from where you came. But more importantly, we probably aren't even going to give them the money anymore, the money going to them, because of the tremendous abuse and probably illegality being perpetrated on our country. We're not going to give them the money. We're not giving them the money. It's massive numbers of people are scamming our country. You know, they came from a place with nothing, and they come here and they drive around in Mercedes-Benz. You know, the Mercedes-Benz dealers do well in that area of Minnesota. Can you believe it? They have nothing. They get welfare payments, and they have Mercedes-Benzes. It angers me so much, but we're going to straighten out our country. This was done under Biden and Obama, very much under Obama. It all started under Obama. And we just can't. We've got a great country. We're not going to screw it up. But this was one of the great scams ever. They have the same thing, Somali in Maine. Who would think? I never saw that happening. But in Maine, it's really crooked as hell, too. But it's not just Somali. It is them, but it's not just. There are many other places, many other people.
All right, so that is President Donald Trump speaking at the Detroit Economic Club there in Detroit, Michigan. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. It's colder outside, but today, correct me if I'm wrong, James, I'm putting you on the spot. Warmer today, but like we're kind of leveling out to where we should be, kind of.
All I'm going to say is if you think it's cold now, wait until Wednesday or Thursday morning. It's in the 20s.
It was cold this morning. It was cold this morning.
It was cold this morning.
And I keep my heat on very low, / sometimes I forget to turn on the heat. So it was a little chilly. Yeah, no, I get hot. I get hot. So I like it a little chilly in my apartment. So that's just me. And I'm not a meteorologist either. Let's actually consult with the actual meteorologist. Majestic Storm. Here's our full forecast.
Today is going to be a beautiful sunny day and the warmest day out of our 7-day forecast. So really, we're not doing too bad, even though we're definitely not as warm as last week. But remember, that was not normal. We were just getting spoiled. 48 degrees right now in the Queen City. It is gorgeous. We'll hold on to sunny skies all throughout the day today, and temperatures will continue to climb back into the upper 50s and low 60s. Now, we will have cloudy skies returning tomorrow. So if you have plans for your Wednesday, it's still going to be a rather warmer winter day, but not nearly as much sunshine as to what we're seeing outside now. And then Thursday, we're really going to start preparing you for a big drop in those temperatures. Yesterday, it was pretty, but we only topped off at 50 degrees. Remember, we should be at 52. Today, we're forecasting about 59, so a great day to get outside and enjoy it. Sunny skies this morning. It was gorgeous. We'll hold on to nice clear skies throughout the afternoon, and then tonight, a few clouds start to push through. In the mountains today, talk about a nice day. 53 degrees, very comfortable, whether you're up there in the mountains or you're just bopping around Blowing Rock. Once we're looking over there towards the foothills, upper 50s, low 60s, 60-degree temperatures there in Morganton. 59 in Lincolnton and Charlotte, 58 degrees today in Statesville. And then once we head to the south of us, a mix of upper 50s and low 60s. So bottom line, most of us, we get to experience above average temperatures today. And then again, we'll see some clouds roll through overnight. That'll help our overnight lows from getting too chilly. This morning we bottomed off at 30 degrees, and then tomorrow morning as you're heading out the door, whether you're heading off to work or getting those kids up and ready for the school day, I think it'll be a little bit more bearable. Waking up into the 40s, mid 40s by 9 o'clock. And then again, remember tomorrow, still holding on to very mild conditions overall. But really the focus now is that we're preparing you for Thursday. That is going to be a chilly day with temperatures not even touching 40 degrees. And that's before you factor in the wind. It's going to be because of a dry cold front, so it'll be moving in from the northwest, and it really starts to ramp up those winds. It kind of opens up the door to allow a lot of that cooler northerly wind and air to settle in. So factor in the cool air and those gusty winds, and then Thursday morning it is going to feel very cold, like we're into the teens and low 20s in and around the greater Charlotte metro area. But look at the mountains. -3 in Boone, 0 up towards Jefferson. That's going to be a big focus. Once we're heading into Friday, then we're focusing on bitter cold early morning temperatures before things start to settle out as we're heading towards the weekend. Rain chances over the next 7 days really aren't looking too great. If anything, with that cold front, remember it's mainly a dry cold front. We could get a little bit of mountain snowfall, but really the impacts, they do seem quite minimal. Let's break down that Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Again, 59 degrees today, perfect conditions. Enjoy the day, sunny skies, and remember, above average highs. Lows tonight not getting nearly as cold as the last 2 mornings with low 40s, and then temperatures tomorrow still looking pretty great. Thursday and Friday we're going to wrap up the work week with plenty of sunshine, not even reaching 40 degrees though there on Thursday. This weekend 55 degrees on Saturday, and then a big cool down again as we're heading into the end of our weekend.
All right, let's go to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm Colin Mayfield inside the Impact Studio, just taking over for Nick Sturdivant as we get you closer to the 4 o'clock news on WCNC Charlotte. We were actually just going to go to a live discussion that the president was actually having in Detroit. A lot of it was based around the economy. And as you well know, there are a lot of different numbers. There's a DOJ situation going on with Jerome Powell and the situation there that kind of was updated just yesterday. But obviously things in Detroit, this is at the Economic Club that happened at the Motor City Casino today. A lot of discussion about where gas prices have been, where prices in general for groceries have been. So yes, we will get to that in full later on this evening from 7 to 9 here on WCNC Plus. But for now, we're going to go to another situation happening here. And in fact, we have some House representatives discussing some situation on Capitol Hill. I do believe the Dems are speaking, and this might be on the DHS situation that's ongoing in Minnesota. So let's listen into this as this is live right now, and we glean some information from this with you.
That are out there killing people.
That's community safety. Yes.
Sorry, I was just, there's...
All right, folks, there's kind of a brief lull in the discussion, but this is Ilhan Omar speaking, or it was Representative Omar speaking, but a number of Democrats, as you can see, she was in that screen discussing the ongoing situation, obviously after about a week plus of the deadly shooting that happened in Minneapolis with Renee Nicole Good. A lot has been said at the Senate and inside the House as well. So let's go back to this as our feed seems to be stable now.
Those constitutional rights and the racial profiling that is going on in communities. We're sensitive to that. What we're saying is let's sit down, let's work out some reforms, and then we can talk about appropriations and votes. Yes.
Thank you so much. I have a question for Representative. Which one is he? Do you want to take a question? She has a question for you. Sorry, sure. Go.
The question that I have, if you are, how are you coordinating with state and local officials in Minnesota to support affected communities in Minneapolis and St. Paul and these tragic events happening?
I mean, we have our staff that is in the district doing the constant work of making sure our congressional delegation, obviously the Democratic congressional delegation from Minnesota, and our local communities are getting information that is necessary, but also taking that information and seeing ways in which we could be supportive. Thanks.
I understand we have Michael from the New York Times here.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
So much pressure now. I wanted to ask, so you guys are talking about attaching meaningful reform to an appropriations bill, but as I'm sure you know, Secretary Noem, in a court filing on Saturday, suggested the sheer amount of money that was given to DHS during that reconciliation bill exempts them from an existing oversight requirement appropriations. So how do you contend with that as you're pushing for meaningful reform on a spending bill that she's already suggesting she has enough money to work around?
Because she doesn't need the money on it.
You want to do it? Okay.
Okay, first of all, it's a BS argument, and hopefully the court is going to say that. Clearly, we have to spell things out even more than we have. But first of all, you can't make an argument that in that particular case of that detention, that federal facility, that is a federal building, as I understand it, Representative Omar. And you can't suddenly say that that was only funded by the One Big Bad Betrayal bill. So it's not, we don't think we're in court around that. We don't think it's going to hold up. But what I would say is, why are Republicans refusing to have accountability for agents who go rogue? Why are they refusing to have an independent investigation into this? Why were they immediately out trying to classify what happened and lie about what happened and gaslight the American people who saw it with their own eyes? because they don't want, and Kristi Noem herself, by the way, on CNN said, you can't trust the government. And Dana Bash said, you are the government. She said, I know, that's what I'm saying. So I don't think we can trust what they're saying right now, and it's an unfortunate thing, but I think we have to be aware that when we write the appropriations language, we're going to have to spell out even more clearly than we have what this applies to, and they can't try to draw this distinction between what was in the big bad betrayal bill and what's in appropriations. I don't think the court will see what the court does.
I also want to reiterate that two of the three shooting victims that have been in the news, the first one last summer at the end of June, Silverio Villegas, had just dropped his kids off from school. Same thing in Minneapolis. And the third one, the woman, my neighboring community, who was shot 5 times, Marimar, they also called her a domestic terrorist. The case fell apart. It was dismissed. They dropped the charges. They've used these labels on every single one of those instances, and that's reprehensible, unconscionable. Yes, sir.
I understand the official position is just related to the DHS funding bill, but if there aren't any reforms to ICE or changes to ICE policy, should Democrats oppose the other funding bills to try to force Republicans to the negotiating table and try to get some policy concessions?
We have our position on this bill. We want to deal with that. We're ready to engage, and we're ready to negotiate. We'll take them one at a time. Yes. Nick? Oh, Nick.
Several of you have referred to the shooting of Renee Good as murder. There hasn't been, a complete investigation. Are you perhaps prejudging, the possibility of getting a fair trial for the shooter or his rights to due process, by calling it murder before hitting the charge?
Could I ask you a follow-up question? Would you ask that of the president and Kristi Noem when immediately they called the victim a domestic terrorist?
That's right.
And then they're going to be the ones that are going to conduct the investigation and ice out Minnesota from doing it? The reality is, as you see more and more footage, it is clear for us there was an intent to kill. I just did an interview with BBC with a former ICE director under Donald Trump, and we talked about the number of shots, and he said, it doesn't matter the number of shots. He was trying to justify it. Yeah, the number of shots matter. There was an intent to kill. And then he went further and called her a fucking bitch. So I think we can go back and forth on that. What we are saying is we want to see an independent investigation. The public is demanding it. And for the sake of our own credibility as government officials, whether you're Republican or Democrat, that investigation has to happen because that investigation has been denied for Silverio Villegas, Gonzalez, and others. And the time right now is now, and we have an appropriations process to hold them accountable with.
And I will just say that the very first person that made a determination about this case was Kristi Noem.
That's right.
And then Donald Trump.
That's right.
So I introduced an amendment today on a judiciary bill to call for an independent investigation into this because this is what our Republican colleagues kept saying last week during a hearing. We need an independent investigation. While at the same time they were backing up the fact that the very institution that should be calling for an independent investigation from the beginning. Imagine how different this would have been if Kristi Noem and Donald Trump had immediately said, this is horrific, a U.S. citizen was killed, we've seen the video, it is extremely disturbing to us, we are immediately launching, in conjunction with state and law enforcement officials, an independent investigation into what happened. This whole thing would have, so I agree with Representative Ramirez. Ask the White House this question, because they are the ones that started this from the very beginning. We went back and forth in judiciary last week with our Republican colleagues who wanted to analyze it. Great, let's have an independent investigation. They don't want it. They all voted against it today.
Okay.
Last question.
Mr. Wu?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, in recent days, some Democrats, Mr. Espaillat among them, have been talking about the need to terminate ICE altogether and rebuild it somehow. Again, is that a sentiment that you agree with, going beyond mere conditions for ICE?
Nick, let me start, and members can feel free to chime in. I had never used the term abolish ICE until the last round of pounding that my neighborhood took when Greg Bobino and company showed up to terrorize our community. You know why I did it? Because my 8-year-old grandson, who is adopted, is terrified. All he wants to talk about is ICE. And when we drive around the neighborhood, is that ICE? Is that ICE? Is that ICE? Because my wife is terrified. And I, too, was sickened by the choppers flying overhead. I don't know if it was intentional, constantly hovering over my home in Little Village, while the terror that ICE was bringing to my community was all over the commercial strip of our neighborhood, Chicago's second magnificent mile in terms of commercial retail activity. That's when I said, we can never go back to normal. People will never understand that ICE is an agency of the government, that it has legitimacy because of all the violence that they have perpetrated, all the terror that they have sowed, and all the disrespect that they have demonstrated against the people that I represent in Congress.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, folks, a lot of different things covered in that. As you heard, and as you might expect, Democrats not happy with the ongoing situation in Minnesota. As you saw as they panned the camera, the picture there of Renee Nicole Good, the young woman who was unfortunately killed more than a week ago in Minneapolis. We're going to take a 2-minute break. We promise we'll come back on the other side after this. All right, folks, we've got a treat for you, a live Mecklenburg County Board of County Commissioners public policy meeting. As you know, just more than $4 million was passed last night through the council to really kickstart the transit authority here in Mecklenburg County. I know that will be a piece of discussion in this, so let's listen into this live right now.
Without that last minute crush on health facilities. So I'd like to see at some point, and Dr. Washington and I have been having this conversation, some indications about utilization of people getting annual checkups, et cetera. And he's also said how important it is for this measles epidemic that we are experiencing for young kids to get their immunization shots and all of their appropriate shots at an early age. So utilization is quite important. And I'd like to reiterate what Dr. Washington said about school nurses. The news certainly is on measles right now, but the fact that Mecklenburg County is supportive of school nurses and additional healthcare specialists in working with our students is so critically important in addressing not only measles but other childhood diseases. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raynard. I appreciate it. I have a lot of questions, so I'm going to just say them because I only have 3 minutes. The teen suicide rate, is there a way you can give an estimate on how many, like, actual kids are going to the ER? And then, do you stay in touch with the schools, including private schools, and how are you getting the statistics? Are they just ER reports? And then vaccinations, I thought they really could not go to school at a certain point if they were not vaccinated. So are these kids who are, you're granting exceptions or exemptions, and you said 5,000 total, right, or not vaccinated right now? How many of those are exemptions? And then the syphilis medication, why is there a low inventory? Is that typical? Is this like over the years, or is this like something new?
Yeah. All right. So I'll take those back from the top. Happy to get you the counts on teen suicides as well as the overall ED visits for youth behavioral health issues. The team will get that for you. So the way that we do keep in touch with the schools, we don't have as much information about private and charter schools. One of the tools that we use, so for the ER data, that comes from hospital surveillance data. So we have syndromic surveillance. So when people use the ER, we're able to see on a weekly basis why folks in the county are going to the ER, and we have minimal demographic information about them. And then we also have the Youth Behavioral Risk Factor Survey, which has been a really valuable tool for us to be able to understand in public schools. It's a survey of students in public schools to understand their health behaviors. So are they thinking about suicide? Are they depressed? Are they using substances? Do they smoke? All those kinds of data points is really critical. There's been some disruptions in the YRBS with the new administration, and so we don't have, there are concerns about whether we'll be able to actually have that data source, which is really important on a long-term basis because of changes at the CDC. But that doesn't include private schools. That focuses on public schools. It's a sample of classrooms from public schools, so not as much about what's happening at private schools. The way the vaccine policy works for public schools in North Carolina is essentially the students are required by law to be vaccinated by the 30th day of school. And if a child is not meeting the expectations in terms of either vaccination or their immunization or their physical assessment that's required depending on the grade of student, then they're supposed to be excluded from school as of the 30th day. The superintendent does have the authority to extend beyond the 30th day for some window of time, and I would have to defer to CMS about sort of their policies and practice around exclusion. That we don't have the power to exclude school. That is, the enforcement of that is left up to the school. The school nurses do identify students who should be excluded, though, and notifies the school of those students.
Okay. And then the question about the syphilis.
Oh, Bicillin is, it's a supply chain issue with Pfizer, I believe, is the pharmaceutical company that produces Bicillin. I'm looking at Glenda. It's a supply chain issue. It's happened, I think, at least a couple times a year for pretty consistently now. And so we do have an okay supply today, but we are not able to treat non-pregnant women with Bicillin. Bicillin is the easiest way to treat syphilis because it's an injection, not a pill. And so it allows it and makes sure that the person gets treated because people forget to take pills, et cetera. But we're not using it for non-pregnant women right now, only pregnant women because of the shortage.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. I'm going to do the same thing Commissioner Meyer did. I'm just going to say my questions first. So the first question is, you're talking for measles, you're talking about a population of young people, like you were talking about K through 5. And there are many adults that were born who had the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine and need a follow-up vaccine because they had it so long ago. And so can we talk about that population? Is that necessary for any adults to get a follow-up vaccine? Second is you talked about how we still need to work with getting people from smoking. And I don't know if when you're including smoking, are you including vaping? And the county has cessation programs, and I think we need to talk about that a lot. Are they free to the public? My next question is about mental health, the reporting, because I think it's worse than what we're seeing on the graph. And so even as dismal as it is on the graph, I think it's worse than that. What do you think the factors are that are contributing to that? Because, when you see the numbers, and I've been talking to people about this, about suicide ideation, I just think it's worse than what we're seeing. So just more information on what factors do you think are making things worse? How can we help? The fourth question is, does the health department know every patient who has been treated for a sexually transmitted disease or infection? Is that a required reporting from the healthcare systems, or is this just people that we treated? Tuberculosis is different, but it's my understanding that anyone that has a positive PPD has to report to county government that there is somebody that has this, so that they can be followed by the public health director to see if it turns out to be a real case of tuberculosis. So, are these numbers the totality of Mecklenburg County or just the people we treat? And that's all for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Back to measles. So in general, there's not a broad recommendation for boosters for anyone for measles. There are some very narrow groups of folks who in general need to consult with their provider around getting a measles booster. But again, there is no broad recommendation for a booster. So just to be clear, we've gotten a lot of questions about boosters, and in general, that's not needed. If you are immunocompromised or have other complicating health conditions, then your provider may recommend a booster. And then some certain groups, depending on when they were born and if they got 1 versus 2 shots, that's a narrow group. It's very hard to communicate that, though, and so individuals should check their immunization record and their recommendation with their provider before they would come. They can also come to us, and we're happy to do that with them to make sure if they are eligible or need it, they are, but that's a very narrow group of folks. In terms of smoking, yes, vaping is a part of that equation. There's a lot of science that's coming out now about the health consequences of vaping. There was a big study that just came out in December about the damage that the microparticles in vapes do to lungs, and so we do as well try to message and work against the vaping. And our cessation work is related to us providing basic nicotine replacement therapy, which we do provide at no cost to community providers to distribute. And then we also support the state quit line, which is essentially a line people can call to get connected to services for cessation. The big issue with smoking, though, is that the smoking policy is regulated at the state level and is preempted here locally from us being able to do a lot around smoking. And we got to do something about how tobacco products are accessed in the community if we want to be able to actually make a huge dent on smoking practices. If there is an oversaturation of tobacco products in a community, people are going to use them. And so the reality is, and if there's no regulation on the types of products, which is part of the concern with some of the vapes, the potential dangers to our residents are great. But the state has preempted our ability to take action locally. And so it is something that we have to continue to focus on. I agree with you. Certainly mental health is underreported across the board. And so I think you're right in that in terms of why mental health is a growing issue for us, there are a whole host of factors, Commissioner, that I couldn't really articulate. I think, it's been well documented that the social media and external influences is having an impact on youth mental health. The pandemic certainly had an impact on mental health for young people and adults. And so I think it's a combination, as well as, frankly, a lack of investment in the behavioral health system to be able to properly care for people at all levels of care, right? When people have lowest acuity behavioral health, they should be able to access care. And if you can't, it's just going to, just like any other chronic condition, it's just going to keep getting worse, right? And we should be able to help people before they get to a place that they're in an emergency department considering suicide. So, and then yes, this is all of our communicable disease reporting. So any number I provided today is disease counts for the the entire community and not just folks that we see in the health department. And so that by law is our responsibility to get reports. Most of those come to us electronically now, thanks to technology, but we still do get faxes that somebody has to monitor every day and key into the system.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We go with SRM, leak, and then YTI.
Let me first say thank you.
Excuse me, Commissioner, I'm sorry. I'm going to go with Commissioner Rodriguez-McDowell, then
Oh,
you,
I didn't
then
hear.
YTI.
I'm sorry.
Thank you,
Excuse
Mr.
me, Ms.
Chairman.
McDowell.
Thank you.
Mrs. McDowell.
Thank you. So can you, thanks for, I can't even imagine how you can do all of that. Even just presenting it, I couldn't even read all that stuff. So anyway, thank you for what you're doing and for your whole department showing up here today. That's really awesome. Can you help me understand slides 6 and 7 of the first report of that one, where the relationship between uninsured residents and primary care?
Hey, folks, going to take a quick break from this county commissioner's discussion right now. We'll be back in 2 minutes, though. Hey, folks, we're back. We're going to go back to the county commissioners meeting and discussing health around the county right now.
And actually more than $3 million a year in the safety net providers who deliver primary care to anybody regardless of their ability to pay. So those are our FQHCs and our safety net clinics. And so that more than $3 million investment does cover care for a lot of residents in the county. Close to 11,000 are able to seek primary care at that safety net at those safety net providers without cost being a barrier.
So those are considered primary care, like they name who the doctor is at those facilities?
Yeah, so at all our safety net providers, they are specifically providing primary care. Now, the FQHCs also provide wraparound integrated services. So if a patient goes there, they need behavioral health or dental services, the county investment can also support those as well. But those providers are medical homes. They're meant to be a place where folks can seek primary care. And we select them essentially such that these are folks who are already going to serve the uninsured because they don't. But cost is not a barrier.
Right.
So we have to have a safety net in the community, especially when you have such a large number of folks without insurance.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Leak.
Let me first say thank you so much for this report. Communication, communication, communication. How do we get this out before the public as we have received it? And the seriousness of it is the change in those who are in leadership in government who's discrediting the need for health care and the quality of those who represent the federal government and dictating what we can do and can't do. How do we handle that? That's number one. Number two, I worry about children and I worry about senior citizens with primary care or with care, period, when it comes to the health of Black people and Black children. What are we doing to increase our knowledge and support in our communities for those individuals? And number three, when we talk about schools, I worry about charter schools, I worry about homeschooling, and other means by which children are not in the care of the public system and don't believe in it because of their religion. That's a major issue for us. Again, thank you. Can you answer those three questions?
Yes, ma'am. I'll start with the first one. So as it relates to the federal government, we have, we continue to stay in close contact and communication with the state who sets policy around health for North Carolinians. And so there is a lot of, I would say, noise from Washington as it relates to public health and vaccine policy. And we have been, I would say, as proactive as possible with communicating with our residents about what we believe to be science and data and truth, and trying to ensure that we bring as much clarity to the conversation here locally so folks can get answers to their questions. The state, though, is also doing the same thing, and the state is ensuring that they are continuing to follow good science, even when we're seeing these varying actions.
Folks, having some issue with the feed right now. We're going to do some magic here and find it again. But speaking to a really knowledgeable doctor, actually, we were just discussing some actual good points that we've learned a lot over the last couple of weeks. Not just about the flu, not just about the measles outbreak that's happening both states, not only in the upstate, but here in North Carolina as well, but just in general about the overall health and updates around the county from a number of leaders and officials in this meeting. We finally have the feedback, so we're going to go to it right now.
To those kids, and so there's not a lot I can tell you about what's happening in those settings because they are separate from our system of care.
My time is up.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So I stop at this point.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Townsend Ingram.
I want to say thank you, just like everyone else, about this information. It's overwhelming. It's a lot. So thank you so much for keeping such good information and informing us. I have a few questions, but a couple of them have been knocked off by my colleagues. So I appreciate that. Is there a recommendation for parents who have children with challenged immune systems? I guess, no, let me change my question. If there is a child that has a disease, do the schools report to you, and then are the schools then required to report to the parents or send some kind of notification out of cases of measles or any kind of communicable disease that they have, especially those parents who have children with challenged immune systems? Then with regard to the primary care physicians, do we partner with any organizations to provide information, like on our website or anything like that, about primary care physicians where they can get one? For instance, like does C.W. Williams, are they just a clinic, or can they get a primary care physician there? And then I don't know if most people know the cruel irony of Dr. Janelle Green Smith, who was a midwife also and was a staunch advocate for Black maternal health and the tremendous number of Black women who die from childbirth and then the death of Black children. She died a couple of weeks ago right after giving birth herself. So do we have any programs currently that can speak to the crisis? And is there a threshold that must be reached? For instance, like the opioid epidemic, it reached a threshold and then became a crisis and an emergency. Is there something similar for Black maternal health?
Sure. I'll start at the beginning again. So in general, if an infectious disease is reported to us of any kind that's infectious, our first line of action is to talk to that person to figure out who they may have exposed. Our job is to figure out, as investigators, to figure out who they may have exposed, whether it be a person or at a place, and then to essentially follow up with those people and that place. So whether it's a sexually transmitted infection or it's a respiratory virus like measles, our job is to find all of the exposed folks and tell them they've been exposed and to take action relative to either getting them tested, having them monitor for symptoms, having them quarantined, depending on the disease. So if a child in a school was ever exposed to someone with anything that was infectious, our staff would identify the child. So we had a case of measles a couple summers ago. So the first thing we do is figure out what classroom that child is in, who's in that classroom, what's the roster, what days they were at school, who was at school that day, and we make a list of potential contacts. And that investigation, especially with measles, happens within hours of our notification because we only have 72 hours from the exposure to act. And so our CD nurses, that's their full-time job. Is it looking for who was exposed to something? How do I notify them that they were exposed, and then take action if I need to? For example, with measles, it might be get them vaccinated, or with other issues like HIV, it will be to get a person tested and treated if necessary. And so we also have disease investigation specialists who actually go out and they knock on doors for STDs, and so they find people who've been exposed or people who are doing the exposing and make sure that we are disrupting transmission. MedLink is the organization here that brings together our safety net providers that do primary care. We work very closely with them. Our staff are on the advisory body. And on our website, there is a primary care locator on the county's website that you can find places where you can get care at those safety net providers, as well as at our hospitals, community clinics. And then lastly, maternal mortality is certainly a crisis, especially for Black women in this country. We have been working very closely with our partners. We have a number of programs. I don't have a ton of time to itemize them all, but there is a maternal health summit that we started to co-sponsor with CareWing. We are planning the third iteration of that now, which I would invite you all to participate in. I think some folks have been before, but that is an opportunity for us to bring together every key stakeholder in this community around reproductive health, focused specifically on the disparity between Black women and others as it relates to maternal health. And so I'll defer to that as a time to really talk about that.
Thank you so much. There's a few more details that I wanted to ask, but I'll send an email for that. Thank you.
I'll come back to you in a few minutes, Commissioner. Commissioner Dunlap.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real simple. Are we working with our school district with sex education, whatever they call it now, to address the issue of the increase in sexually transmitted diseases? And I'm a little confused about the information about the HIV AIDS. When I thought we were going down in that, the last report said, as of September 2025, there were 205 new HIV infections and 97 cases reported, which I thought was down because in 2024, there were 285 new HIV diagnoses. Anyway, if you could clear that up for me.
Sure.
And then the other thing, and this is kind of interesting, our neighbors to the south of us have different rules as it relates to vaccinations. And when you look at the difference between the cases in North Carolina versus those in our neighbors to the south, significantly difference in terms of the number of cases reported. So what are we doing to increase vaccinations in Mecklenburg County?
Okay. Going back to the top, sex education is not something that we're responsible for or have a role in the school district because of changes that happen in state laws here. And so we don't go in schools and do sex education. So I would defer you to the superintendent to talk about what they're doing around education, sexual health education in the schools, because we are not a part of that in the school district. In terms of HIV data for 2025, it's not whole year data. That was as of September of the year, and so it was just an indication that we are trending in the right direction to be towards decline or at least not growth in 2025, but we haven't closed the year out. So we close out the data at the end of this month for all of 2025, and so we'll be able to provide an update. When you get your December communicable disease report, which I know everybody reads, you'll be able to see sort of where we ended the year out for HIV cases. But I will say, though, 205 new cases a year is still way too many, and 97 cases of AIDS is too many, right? Like, we are making progress, but we've got a long way to go to end the epidemic. And so part of it is that, we got to find all the cases and get people in treatment, which we're doing an excellent job at. But we've got to find all the cases. And, we don't have the ability to force everybody to get tested, which might help us in that. But, we got to get people to voluntarily come get tested. I'm very excited that we're doing some new work. Our HIV division is doing some new work with the hospitals to do opt-in, opt-out testing in our emergency departments. Our state law requires opt-in testing for HIV tests, so that instead of when you go to your doctor and get treated, instead of them just routinely checking for HIV, you have to actually sign up for it. And a lot of doctors aren't asking, right? I go get my physical and they don't ask me if I want it, right? And so the best practice is that you have opt-out, meaning that you test everybody. When you draw blood, you automatically test, right? That's how you find cases. And so we were able to get Atrium to agree to do a pilot with us, and they immediately started finding many more cases than they ever had found because we were automatically testing. And so the more we can do that kind of stuff with our providers, while we don't have state laws that support the work, it will allow us to make more progress here on HIV. And then lastly, I mentioned already, we opened up our vaccine clinics to make appointments available for kids to come in. We had a whole campaign with child care centers to focus on promoting vaccines and making sure child care centers are, because that's when, the kids in child care are the ones you want to get them when they're in child care, not when they get to school. If you're waiting to kindergarten, it's already too late, or later than it's supposed to be. And then the mobile health team is at schools, so they're coordinating with school health. So a school that has high levels of kids without vaccinations, school health is working to send letters home with those kids to get consent. And then if the parent consents, then when the mobile health team is on site, then it can all happen and the parent doesn't have to do anything except sign the consent form. So those are our main strategies right now for trying to increase vaccination rates, in addition to trying to convince families who don't want to do it that it's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Before we go to Vice Chair Altman, there were two quick follow-ups. Commissioner Leak had a follow-up and Commissioner Townsend Ingram had a follow-up. I ask both of you to be straight to the point, please.
What hospitals provide support for those who are cannot pay to visit the hospital or have a hospital bill?
Yep.
Do we have hospitals that take care of our people?
Sure. So both healthcare systems, we only have two systems here, Atrium and Novant. Both systems have both financial assistance programs, as well as they do uncompensated care as a part of those programs. So individuals who cannot afford to pay their bill, they fill out an application and the hospital will write off the bill. Last year, Governor Cooper also made big strides on medical debt by clearing billions of dollars in medical debt for residents across the state, which also was a huge progress for clearing people. People had, things on their houses and things as a result of medical debt. The challenge, Commissioner Leak, though, is people have to know to apply to those programs. So we've been putting a healthy amount of pressure on the health systems to just bring more visibility to the programs, that they exist, so that people, when they get a bill, they can auto-enroll. And that was actually one of the conditions of Governor Cooper's deal with the hospitals, was that they had to auto-enroll people in financial assistance programs if they qualify. So instead of people having to find the program and apply, they have to be proactive in getting people enrolled. And so I hope that that's making progress. I don't have a lot of evidence, but I think that's an important tool.
I want to commend the communications department, but I'd like to make sure that this information we have today and talking with you, sharing with us, will be disseminated within the confines of our community, and especially for our seniors and those who have young babies.
Commissioner,
The health department is, the emergency room is full of children and adults. You go to any hospital, it's full.
Yeah, I meant to mention the Live Well tour again. That is why we're doing the tour, so that we can actually bring all this information as well as resources to you all's districts across the community in person, and it's not just me or anybody talking on the screen. So I look forward to you all participating with us in that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Thank
for
you.
that.
Commissioner Townsend Ingram.
Yeah, I don't want to take up too much time, but I just think that we need a mindset change, not to be gross, but when I taught school for 2 years in high school, these kids, they don't think about sex education in the way we used to think about it. It's like, okay, if there's a medicine to cure it, I'm not worried about it. They don't use condoms or whatever. I know that sounds gross, but it's like, it's probably higher, the number of communicable diseases. And not to ask you about things that are not within the jurisdiction of our health department, but my question before was about if there are cases that we find, is the school responsible, and I don't know if you know this, do you report to that school district that there is a child, and then is the school responsible for saying the Board of County Health has informed us that there are 3 children in this school that may have, exposed others to measles?
No.
Does that make sense?
Yep. So the way that works, no, we're responsible for notification and issuing any kind of order. Now, sometimes that does happen through the school nurse or the school administrator, only for convenience purposes. So the communicable disease team will produce the letter that says your child has been exposed to X condition. You need to do this. Like, let's say it's TB. So we're going to be on site on Thursday for testing for TB. Your child needs to be tested, sign the consent form so your child can get tested. That letter goes to the school nurse and the school administrator. Because nowadays a lot of the communication with parents is electronic, excuse me, the administrator has to issue the notice in the system because we don't have rights in the system. And then they are also able to provide paper copies of it to the family as well. But the electronic is also really important because that sends an email basically to the parent. And so that notification, and we don't talk about the number of people they were exposed to. That's not important. We just basically say, hey, you were exposed to something. Here's what you need to do. Any details about who exposed you, how many people were there, that information is kept confidential.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Vice Chair Altman.
Thank you so much. My first reaction to this is that it all weighs very heavy on my heart. I mean, so much of this is really scary, and I just want to recognize the team. I also have a sense of relief that with limited resources and limited authority, that we do have the A team doing the most good that we can with what we have, and I'm super grateful to all of you. I want to ask about youth suicide and HIV/AIDS. How many, I wonder how many youth, if we can bring up that slide, which is, I'm so glad to see the numbers leveling off, but it's still nonetheless completely horrifying. How many children show some sign, have some distress signal before a completed suicide that can be documented? And the reason why I ask is because I have a friend whose child took his life, who he says was the happiest child on earth, and there was no sign, none whatsoever. And this particular father recommends sort of direct asks to to your child or the youth in your life. And I'm not sure what are the appropriate questions that parents and adults in and around children, are there direct, uncomfortable questions that we should be asking them? What are those best practices? And I don't know if anyone can speak to that, but I would like to hear from, folks who have that expertise. What is good guidance to be more direct so that it's not the case that we can have a child who is having distress, but because we all are really uncomfortable with the subject, that we didn't ask the hard question. My second question is around HIV/AIDS. I'm really shocked by the fact that MSM cases account for nearly 69% of new cases, and I guess you can correct me, but this refers to transmissions of HIV/AIDS where the people involved do not identify themselves as LGBTQ. Is that true?
No.
No. Okay. So if you can explain what MSM means and what is being done to try to reach that community to prevent transmission, since it accounts for such a very large portion of cases.
Sure. All right. So your first question, I don't think there is a one answer to that question, and I'm going to defer to follow up on sort of having someone who has more expertise in this space talk at a later HHS meeting about sort of what the practical guidance is to parents and families. I don't feel positioned to give you that guidance here in this moment, but I will certainly follow up on that. Secondly, as it relates to HIV, so the MSM bucket here is individuals who report, men who report having sex with other men. It's not about their sexuality identification. That's not something that we get involved in. That's sort of their own identity and their decisions and not relevant. This is about sort of the mode of transmission. So it could be a combination of homosexual men, bisexual men, those who don't identify as either of those, but it's the matter that they're men that are having sex with men who fall in this. And these are folks who report that activity to us. And it doesn't mean that it's exclusively men who have sex with men. It could be, like I said, bisexual men as well. And then you'll see the smaller blue slither there is where we have individuals who are MSM and they also have injection drug use, which of course is a group that is also concerning as well when it comes to bloodborne pathogen like HIV.
Well, yeah, thank you, sir. I guess my question is, I feel like there's a lot of great outreach to the LGBTQ community, but is there a significant amount of transmission that we are not reaching that education and those resources because they may not be a part of those social circles?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
And if so, what are those methods of trying to reach those communities and getting them resources?
Yeah, so the most useful thing that we use, obviously, is dating apps. And so we use dating apps because that is commonly where you're basically asking me for, people who don't want to be found, how do we find them? And the reality is, Commissioner Altman, that is a challenge, right? We don't have a roster or a registry. And so the most effective tool we have is obviously if someone's in our care in the clinic, we can educate in person. And so that happens very often. And then outside of that, for general outreach, is using the dating apps are an opportunity for us to provide campaigns and education where people are seeking, sexual activity. And so we use them all. We use the ones that we know people are using, and we promote on there just like you have Google ads. We promote on there as well. Both testing resources, our Let's Get Checked kits are posted there so folks can access those easily, as well as just awareness about it. So that's one of the things that we have. Outside of that, we do try to meet people where they are. So we go to social places where we know folks are going to be. But that, to your point, is very difficult. If you are, as folks call them, down low men, you're not trying to be found. So the reality is that we are using what we have, but that's limited.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Certainly want to say thank you to the entire team for all of your work and what you all do on a daily basis. Can we go to the slide that Commissioner Altman referenced earlier? There's a couple points that I want to make. It was the suicide.
Oh, okay.
There we go. So, Dr. Washington, when we have a goal of 185, obviously as a community, we want that to be zero. But certainly there's a goal, and I know this board is certainly moving to goals. Where I'm conflicted with some of our goals is the fact that I'm not so sure. I feel like there are so many variables that are out of our control that to put a number on some of this is an interesting way to approach it. For the simple fact, we have 160 people a day moving into this region. That number is going to continue to grow over time. It has grown over time. The more people we have coming in to drive that number down, with everything that we're doing, I wonder, and again, not just with respect to this, but I'm always conflicted about what our role is as government but what society's role is, what parents and guardians' roles are in this equation. We continue to pile on our staff. You're not doing enough, you're not doing enough, you got to do this, you got to do that. Every way that we can communicate information is communicated in so many different lines of business or function. Every way that you can imagine. Social media. Then somebody says, oh, you got to do a newspaper. Oh, then you got to put a mailer in. And then, oh, you got to do this. And we do it all. But I just wonder if there's a limit to where our responsibility, when we have done and are doing what we need to do and continue to do that, but where's the accountability on the other end? When you have messages coming from the federal government that have a tremendous amount of resources, but then we're being asked to match those resources, match those messages, and we're just outmanned and outgunned. I'm not saying to give up or lay down, but I'm just not sure I'm comfortable with the way sometimes we're reflecting. While I appreciate having goals, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the way we reflect, because I don't think it's reflective. I don't think the outcomes are reflective of the effort.
Sure. If I could just say, usually if it has Live Well MEC on it, this is about everybody. So the accountability here to these goals are set. These targets are set in partnership with our healthcare systems, the steering committee for Live Well MEC. So this is not you guys are asking me what the county's doing, and I'm telling you what the county's doing. But really, this is a part of the bigger we. Like these, which is why I'm always very clear about the scorecard. Commissioner Griffin is requesting that this scorecard is about this community and not about Mecklenburg County explicitly, Mecklenburg County government explicitly. And our hospitals have a role in this. Our school district has a role in this, and those bodies are represented on the Live Well Steering Committee. And their improvement plans marry ours, are partners to ours, that outline what we can do as a county, but they have a stronger, in some ways, role to play because they are delivering the vast majority of healthcare to our residents, right? It's been delivered by both of the two systems. And so this discussion, this report, this update is not exclusive to what Mecklenburg County should be doing. It should help inform our investments as a county and what we do, but the work here is about everybody in the ecosystem that's public health and healthcare in Mecklenburg County.
That's helpful. To me, there's a sense, and it's probably just me, but there's a sense that we own this, right? That this is Mecklenburg County that owns it, not necessarily the community and their partners. So thank you for that clarification. But the last point that I would just make is when you just take the unvaxxed, let's say, we know that we had 5,000 that just presented themselves in the school system. But if you extrapolate that number to the broader community that we're not tracking, you know that number is north of 5,000. Those are just children, right? And so those are folks that probably are not getting mental health services or, dialing into mental health services or other sorts of care, whether it's physical or behavioral health. So again, I just want to double down on the point that I think there's always room for improvement. But I'd be remiss if I didn't double down on the fact that there are variables that are out of our control, and that there is a component where I believe that there has to be some level of responsibility that goes beyond government interfering in the lives of people. So I'll just leave it at that and say thank you very much. And with that, we can go to the next one. And before you go to the proposed health rules, we're all familiar with how this works, with the exception of Commissioner Townsend Ingram. So unless there's going to be a burning question, we don't need comments. Just if there's a specific question to a rule, I'll go to that person. But Commissioner Townsend Ingram is the only one that's not familiar with when we do this.
All right, and let me also just take a moment of personal privilege and thank Dr. Scott, who just walked out, who leads this entire